So what is the topic of the day, you might want to know, or what you might be asking, or, as you know, I don't often kind of like stream, and there's reasons for that. I make a plans and then they fall through because of the way my health is. So I try to let people know that, hey, when I'm well, I'll be on. But the only reason I come on is because I've got something to talk about, or something that's been like happening in the comics, media, or stuff that's been chatted about in comics social media more than anything else. And this pertains to my thinking and my ideas and concepts about what's going on. So giving a bit of my opinion. Sometimes I don't come on because I think I'm just repeating the same crap, right? Same, everybody else is doing the same thing and talking about the same thing. And I don't want to be like that. I want to talk about things that are interesting in a way that I can give my own personal views on it, because it has to do with me, right? Yeah, so the title of the show, of course, Naomi, welcome, is about, it's good to do with AI, the money around indie comics, the foreign exchange rates, and how this is basically got to do with how there's people out there who don't understand foreign rates, right? This is going to be me and you talking. But welcome anyway. So I've got two topics today. One of them is about like the foreign exchange rates and how people don't really understand how the American dollar works in regards to how everybody else's money works, right? And so I was going to do some art and chat and take a relaxed thing about it. And so what's happening is AI, for me, I think, is going to affect how people, which people don't understand, especially a lot of Americans don't understand, right? Especially because America is such a huge place, and comics is a huge place in America. And you can think about that as an overarching thing. Outside of America, the biggest thing is manga. And that's because for the last 20 years, anime has basically dominated every Gen Y and Gen Z's entertainment, right? And you don't have, you can do all the research you want, but that's the obvious truth, right? Because in my day, right, as a Gen Z, right, I grew up on Hulk, I grew up on Wonder Woman, we grew up on X-Men in the 90s, we got Batman and all that. However, Gen Y basically grew up on Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. So when I opened my shop in 2014, I had no clue what Dragon Ball Z was or Naruto, because I was all about Wolverine, Punisher, Batman, and such. And so that's happening is now with AI, anybody can basically do anything when it comes to art. And so there's no sort of like, okay, there's a quality or something. So you can take someone who's been doing them for like 10, 20 years, whatever, and puts a comic out, but no name, and so they get nothing out there, right? However, you get somebody with an AI book out, and suddenly 20K, which is what which I noticed, and I saw last year when I was looking into this. I'm thinking like, well, how come this is having such an effect on people? It's because people are used to like Dragon Ball Z, all right, that art form. And you can say, well, there's a lot of amazing art form in manga, and there is some amazing quality art styles in manga that fully blow Dragon Ball Z and Naruto out the window, right? When it comes to the art itself of manga and the way that the manhwa and manhua, right, out of China, manhua, manhua, out of China, manhwa out of Korea, which is manwha, right? And then I've got manga, right, out of Japan. Now that's basically because I'm someone who's been, who has been in the scene, I guess, in the sense of like since like, 2007, right? When it come to when I started to look at doing art and talking to artists around the world to work with me, or people that just saw what I was doing and said, hey, I'd like to do something with you. So way back then, I put out, I was, when I started doing This Lady Incredible, right? It was in about 2007 Christmas when I came up with the idea of doing it for my niece, because I thought, oh, if I'm going to do a comic book, let's do something that's meaningful to me. And, that's not just another superhero comic, but also where it came from. And that was I had been sitting in a church at that point, and about 4 years earlier, down in Invercargill, the bottom of where I live, right? Like, where I live is Northland, and Invercargill is Southland, where I was doing my 3 years of film study. And so while I was down there, when I first got there, I was a Christian, right? So, used to go to church, was married into the church. Well, not married in the church, married a girl who was a Methodist. And so we went down to study. She went to do IT, and I went to do filmmaking, because that was something I was interested in, because I'd come out of like about almost 5 years of stage. So I've been writing for stage, performing on stage, feature about like over an hour worth of like stage productions. I've been in other international stage productions as an actor, as a support actor or as a voice actor, 10 minutes of speaking and so on, as well as like working for other people who were like, and this is all unpaid, sorry, I should say. This is just like, because it's part of the church, you're just doing stuff just for the love of it, right? Honing my skill as an actor, as a writer, as a director, as a producer, right? So I get down to Invercargill, and I go join a church, right? And in the church, I hear about this lady talking about orphans in Romania, right? And under the Ceausescu, these are children, these are babies of journalists, these are babies of artists, these are babies of political prisoners, right? Who are just being tied to cots with a piece of cloth, so they don't move around, they don't make noise, left in their own filth, because that was the state of it. Like these babies, they don't matter to anybody in the political system, so they're not cared for. And so at that time, there was this lady had been there and visited them, and it wasn't a big thing in the news, right? Around it, that's like what, 2003, 2004, and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this is just sad. And so when I 4 years later, when I decided to do, because I get affected by things in a different way too. I think in a way that people don't get affected by, and this is just the way I am, right? And everybody has their own different patterns of emotion and how they deal with grief, how they deal with emotion, how to deal with sadness, how to deal with anger. With me, I'm usually turning it inwards. However, I realized that the best way to do that is actually turn it into my art. And so, and it's a more visual, sorry, not more effective, more productive, I should say, more productive way of taking that emotion and chuck it onto paper, right? And writing it down, getting my emotions out. It's something that I've kind of, whenever I felt like emotional, I'd write it out. I'd draw, I used to draw Hellraiser type, stuff when I felt angry or something like that. And there's art that all these art that I've done over the probably about 30 years of my life are all gone, right? Artwork, ceramic pieces, they're just all gone. Some are actually in people's hands all around the world. I have no clue where they are because I usually just give them away. If they're lucky, they still exist. If most 90% of them are gone. They're destroyed. They're lost to the ether, right? However, so when I came back and I had a car accident, right, in 2007, and I've mentioned this before, so I'm not going to go over it again. So which made it so that it was impossible for me to stand up for more than about 2-3 hours at a time, which meant that whatever I wanted to do, like in acting, like being film work behind a camera, directing, producing, whatever, I couldn't do that anymore. And so I just said, well, why don't I do what I've always wanted to do anyway? My whole point was to write stories, right? Tell stories. That's where my whole life is going. So anyway, so Christmas 2007, talked to my niece, came up with Incredible between her, myself, and my brother-in-law, who we actually named Incredible, right? And so, and then I was thinking about what do I write about this character? And so that sort of gave me the idea for hey, why don't I write about this Romanian orphans that really affected me at that time. And so then I went and found an artist, right, who was over in England, right? I can't remember his last name, but his name, Burbank. Yeah, Burbank, Mike Burbank. And so we started working on it. Preliminary, some of that artwork is out there, stuff, and I've done some rework on the webcomic side of things. But later, I actually wrote a story called Templeton, excuse me, which I kind of wrote it as for a John Constantine Hellraiser story, with the Keanu Reeves movie. More people are more aware of the Keanu Reeves movie than actually the comic book character, right? If you're not in the comic book scene. So, I called it Black Waters, and then I designed a character and wrote the whole, I don't know, about 90 page film script, and then turned into a, which is like a feature film, right? Hour and a half. And turned it into a script, and then put out that I was going to do this. So I reached out to someone in New Zealand, and I said, "Hey, I would, would you be interested in working on this? This is a professional artist, right? Fantasy artist." And I thought, yeah, cool. And turned out it was going to cost me 20K, right? And this is where I'm talking about the whole, money thing, right? It was going to cost me 20K New Zealand. That's basically a year's income, right? And that, a 20K. And the almighty dollar, right? 20K to do a 90 pages worth of art. However, right, and this is going to the first point of the whole point one of the story, this the street. And so with the 20K, I was like, oh hell, I can't do that. I can't. So I can't even afford that. I'm actually out of work. I'm on accident comp because my back is broken. I have injuries in my back, which is why all these live streams get delayed daily, because I go, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I wake up and I can't move. I was supposed to go see Trap on Saturday night, which was organized on Wednesday by my friend. He said, hey, look, we're going to tomorrow night to go see a movie. Oh yeah, I'm not going to be feeling well tomorrow, right? So I know that. And so it came to Saturday, I'm like, it's about 2 hours from going out. I can't move. I stand up. I'm limping to the kitchen, which is only like about freaking, what is it, like about 7 steps away, right? And I go, hey, dude, message him, on Facebook. Hey, dude, I can't. Apologies. I just can't do it. Like, I'm just going to take some meds and go back to sleep, right? And so just lay there for, and then like get up, Sunday and like, yeah, still can't do it. Feeling really sore, plus my shoulders really messed up because mouse, because of the hand injury, I've got a sliced freaking tendons. It constantly is always in pain. So shoulders now freaking got the referred pain. All right, so no Sunday. Yesterday, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. Guess what? I've got artists like, I've got my friend, my artists going, hey, look, I've got all this work here. Come, I'm going to do all this stuff. I've got an entire folder of work, right, for our fantasy series, which is like, I was going to put this up later, but since we're on the, not going to segue away from there. But and he goes, hey, look, we got our fantasy series. I've got all the artwork set up for the pages, all 30. I think it was like 34 pages. I think it was like it's a 30 page art comic book, plus about another 5 pages of a backup short story, right? Kind of give you an idea about one of the characters. And so I get like 5 gigs worth of like Dropbox, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I get one of my other guys go up and go, hey, look, right, so I've got this page set up. This is what you're after. Yeah, cool, man. Love it. Go for it. Cool. Okay, I'll go in there. Ink. And the other one comes up with a pencil paste and goes, yeah. I'm like, cool, man. So I'm like stuck. I'm not stuck, but looking through there, arranging the pages on my Clip Studio Paint, which is where I do all my work. Arrange all the lettering and all that, and arrange all the pages, make any changes I need to make, or even notes, and just JPEG it and go, yep, that's what I'm thinking, with the notes on it in red or whatever. Anyway, so that was yesterday, right? And then got to where I'd realized that I'd been up for 40 hours. Actually, no, I'd been up for about 30 hours almost, right? And then, so last night I slept for like about 12 hours. And so this is how my life works, right? And so apologies for all the changes to all the live streams, saying, hey, I'm going to be on and I'm not on, and I'm going to, that's how my body is. Can't really, and the work is when you work for yourself, it's all over the place. So it's really hard trying to set up a live stream on the time that I want to do it. However, back to Templeton, right? So I get a email. This is when I had a page called Rising Sun Comics New Zealand, right? Because that was my name of my comic studio at that time. That was what I was calling myself. And that got deleted and nuked when I kind of like tried to self-delete. And so I deleted that page entirely. There was something like about 400 people on that page at that time following me. And so anyway, so when I got to that, yeah, so I had a guy reach out to me from Philippines, right, for working on Templeton. And so we started negotiating a amount, right? And he just said, hey, look, I can do this for this much New Zealand dollars. I'm like, great, that's great. And so we got about 12 pages done. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand when it comes about people. And so like, I won't say like, like a third world country, but say a lesser, less, people whose economy, is kind of like in a different financial state to your own economy. So America at the moment and Europe is kind of like at the forefront of where the money is at when it comes to like the finances, the value of the dollar, right? Or the value of the euro. So what I want to take you guys on here is like, let me just put a title here, right? Value of the dollar, right? In reference to, hold on, let me get this right. I'm like trying to work over my my art tools because I'm going to be doing some art, but looks like we won't get to that today. So yeah, so the value of the dollar, right? wrong spelling, but you get the idea. So what is the value of the dollar, right? And recently, I've come to, there was a post by a guy over in, on a comic book group page in art, artists looking for art, writers looking for artists, guys creating comic book, and it's got it, set up. The sad thing was that a lot of people who don't understand about the economy of other nations, other countries, poorer countries, compared to Western, countries whose dollar is very high up. So you take a look at this. This is like, let me bring that back over to, let me see, is that a better one? No, this would be a better one. So let's have a look at this, right? So at the moment, $15 American is kind of like around the minimum wage around New Zealand. That's pretty high up when you really think about it. That's $20 more from about when I was a kid at 16, 15, working, right? And a full-time job. I was getting around about $6.50, $6.90, right? An hour for 44-hour work. Sometimes there was like overtime thing when, if it was like there was a major stock that had to be made up, and I was working in a factory, so there's like a no-brainer job, manual labor work, right? So while I was there, there was about like all just teenagers basically, apart from two adults, right? Which was like the boss and the foreman, right? Which was his brother-in-law. And from Bangladesh, right? You guys have seen recently there was all these riots over in Bangladesh that are ousting their president. Basically stepped down, Sheikh Hasina, right? I think it was, who had to step down because there was all these students burning up the place, or there was people like instigators who were like beating up students and stuff, or trying to protest the system, where they were trying to say like the quota system and civil work. The only thing when I came out to comment about that was like, my thought was, if you're like burning down your country's infrastructure, your buildings and stuff, and you are seen to be the one who's doing that, do you think bosses will hire you, right? But that was my comment on it. Later I realized that there's more to it, and that there was other people who are like being put out there, kind of like the trying to cause problems in a peaceful protest. And here's the thing. Let's have a look. Talking about Bangladesh, right? So let's have a look at what Bangladesh dollar is, right? Compared to, I don't know what the Bangladesh money is called, but taka, right? Bangladeshi taka, right? Have a look at that. Look at how small, right? Bangladesh taka as compared to an American, American. And the reason I'm putting this $15 up here for America is because that was what was being debated about, and a point of contention on the group, on the post that the guy who's an artist, who's a comic creator writer, wanted to do a comic, put it out there that he could afford $15 American per page rate, right, for an artist to work with him. However, there are American artists, all right, and I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to talk about in this thing, right? So there were American artists who are like, oh, yes, that's too cheap. Don't expect people to do that. The problem here is, if $15 US is an hour rate in New Zealand, that's pretty high. To a guy, who's in Bangladesh, you can do that page in an hour, and you're giving him $15 American, and you're giving him 1.763, right? 0.7676, right? 73676, whatever, right? For a page rate to do illustrations on a page. But because Americans, UK, these, people that have a high cost of living, right? Even New Zealand, we have a pretty high cost of living in New Zealand, right? And, a room like a board could cost you $150, right? So if we go, like, say, okay, let's go to, say, where are we back here with NZ, right? Say if it's 100, turn that around, say it's 150 New Zealand, right? So it's basically at the moment $9 US is $15 New Zealand, right? So basically then it's $90 US. Now the only way you can really understand the value of this is how, like, you basically go, okay, how is this, how much is my living wage, right? And so at the moment in New Zealand, like I said, it's around about $21, $24. As this kind of like a minimum wage mandated by the previous government, which, to be honest, I don't think it's that feasible, because even though your income has gone up, who's going to pay for that? Say if you're a small mom and dad shop, you can't really afford to pay $20 an hour, so you're basically working overtime, running yourself down, physically, emotionally, whatever, mentally, because you can't afford to pay someone, so you only have them in for a couple of days a week, or even a couple hours a day. So if your rent is, like, say in America, $90 for a room or board, whatever you want to call it, a flatmate, and you pay for everything else yourself, because that's basically what it is. It's $150 New Zealand to live on, right? And so with that, what this is doing is, I feel like this is why the title of the thing is, like, as Nobi wasn't here before, was talking about, like, how, what is the poisoning of the well, what this is kind of like what is really going to poison the well, because you have people from America and the UK and Europe who have a very high cost of living, right? And they have a value for that, and that's fine. I have nothing against that, and because, hey, like I said, we have a very high cost of living in New Zealand as well, and I would not have it any other way. Now, let's say this: go to Fiji, right? And this is why I think why I'm saying this is a poisoning of the well. So let's go to Fiji, right? Now, when you go to Fiji and you take that same $15 US, right? Now it's double, right? It's double what that American dollar is, even just a bit more than that. As you can see here, it's 2.25 for a Fiji dollar. So basically, you're paying that, and what is like a standard rate? I've got a friend who's an artist and comic creator in Fiji, and he's probably the only one that I really know in the comic scene, and he's amazing, right? And so, and he's got contracts with overseas publishers and stuff, because he's that good. And I've got New Zealand people who are in the same thing, working for Scholastic and so on. I mean, getting their books out with Scholastic and stuff, and also local publishers as well. Now, if you're friggin' if a single US dollar is $2.25 to $2.25 to Fiji, and this is going back 10 years, right? Maybe about 10 years. Last time I was in Fiji, a standard entry, no-brainer entry job in Fiji, like someone who just walks around and goes, "I'll sell you this, sell you that," is around about $2.50, $3, right? So give or take around about $1.50 US per hour, right? Now, let's look at that with New Zealand dollar. So there was a time when New Zealand was $1.50 Fiji, and this was 10 years ago. And I'm going by 10 years. That's when I was there, like 2014, when I went to my, if I remember right, it was my my cousin's wedding. And I haven't been back since. We've been planning to go back for the last couple of years, just haven't got around to it. I've been busy for the last 6 years, with the convention, with comic books, like trying to get my studio set up and so on, and getting this work done. 10 years ago, it was $1.50. That's how bad it was. $1.56, I think it was $1.55. Now, what I'm trying to point out here with this is that when you're over in America and you see only American dollars and your own living value and how it is, you don't really understand the state of people's lives elsewhere, right? But especially when it comes to comic books, because you're swapping money for work, right? Which is always things like money for labor, right? So if you're swapping money for labor, and so let's get back to the US dollar, right? So it's 60 cents, basically dollar New Zealand, 60 cents US, right? So say you're paying about $50 or whatever. Let's just work with, actually, no, 15. Let's go back to 15 because that's what the guy was offering, right? So he was offering it for an hour's worth of work from a person, depending on how fast that illustrator is, right? He was offering an hour's worth of work for $25 New Zealand. I don't know what country he came from or was based in, right? And what the value of his dollar was compared to the US. Let's say he was over in, let's say he was over in, I wouldn't say he was over, let's say he was Europe, right? So say he was able to offer, say he was in Europe, UK, Europe, right? Britain, whatever. He was offering 11 pounds, right? Which is $20 US, right? But he wasn't offering that. He was offering $15 American for a page rate. For him, wherever he was living, right? Let's say he was living in maybe like a poorer country. Let's say Africa, right? Let's say South Africa, right? Where are we? Is it Bahia? No. Let's say he was Thailand. Let's make it Thailand, right? So he's paying basically 526 baht, right? And I reckon, that's like about $1, right? What's a baht would be like the value, whatever it is. He's paying a lot of money for that page because he can afford to do that. Now, imagine, I've seen Thai and Filipino artists. There was a recent one who was working for, I think he was working for Marvel, right? And he put in some like tarot groups, reference in there, and he was like promoting that tarot group. And it was what it was what was point of contention where people want to say, hey, like he's thinking a Muslim Islamic terror group, right? And so Marvel had to apologize and get rid of those pages and like destroy a whole line of comic book issues, right? Because of public, and one of them back, right? Because that had happened in there. And so the guy basically, I don't know what the outcome was there, but let's say, right? So he was from a country that's like, and so with that, he was getting paid whatever the rate Marvel is paying. And for him he was doing pretty good art because like the quality was able to get onto it. And I know you guys are going to say like Marvel's quality has dropped, and of course it has dropped. But also there is like the whole idea of like how, we can, talking about exchange rate. He was probably making, with that American dollar, whatever he's getting paid, say he's getting paid $50, $30, $40 an hour, right? he's doing really well. He's getting 1,000 Thai baht or Philippines, whatever that was. Let me just go to Philippines, right? Peso, right? So yeah, so he's basically, if you go, if he's same amount, right? He's getting it like around about $860. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about, think about the economics of stuff and the financial things side of comic, because a lot of people don't really think about the business side of this art form to their own detriment, right? If you're going to get into creating comics, you really have to know the business side of things, because you're going to be dealing with people from, and even, I know a lot of people don't want to they want to say, I want to deal with Americans because I'm helping my own country person, or I want to deal with Europe, and because I'm. However, when it comes down to it, if you are only able to afford hiring someone from, say, Philippines, or say Africa, and and that's all you can afford, right? You're not going to be able to really, really be able to do the dream that you want to dream of getting somebody with a big name on your work, until you get to that stage where you can afford to get a big name on your work. For me, I just, whoever, is whoever comes across to Rising Sun Comics that have contract with Rising Sun, I get to work with them as a creator, as a writer, and as a producer, right? Uh, of comics. I get to work with these amazing artists, right? Who are from all over the place, which means like now I'm like, I sleep in the day and and I'm awake at night because they live elsewhere. Like I'm working with a guy from Italy. I'm working from a guy with from Sweden, from Italy, and then there's a guy who's from Argentina, who's in France right now, working there, right? And so I also have someone from Brazil and America, right? A couple of guys from America. So with that, when we're creating comics, I don't really deal with the money side of things except for one person. And so whatever they decide to, come in and work with me, that's what I work with, right? And I don't look at the contracts or anything like that, because that's got nothing to do with me, because they have, they have their own dealings and stuff. So I think this is something what it's kind of like is gonna and going is by people pushing Western high value of living costs, right, onto like people outside of America, outside of Europe, outside of UK, outside of Canada, because these are like in Australia as well, and New Zealand, right? Because I've been working with on this side of things with foreign creators for so long, right? Since like 2010. So if you really, probably even 2010 would be probably when I really started. So like say, what is that, like about 14 years now? I have a better understanding. I say hopefully, right? I'm not saying I have a perfect understanding. I have a better understanding of how the economics of creating comics works, especially when it comes to foreign exchange rates. And this is something, if you're getting into comics, have to be very careful about and very aware about, right? There are people who are very smart and who have been known to get paid and then take that money and pay less to a team of people to create that same page that they tell you they created for you, right? And so for me, I'm always like on my, I'm always like chatting with my guys. I have video phone calls, video chats, whatever you want to call it, meetings, Facebook, Facebook messages, whatever. I check out who they are, where they're coming from. Even sometimes before they even get to me, they've already been checked out. There is also the side of this that, like I said, is is a second point of contention. Topic, right? Which was that because of this sort of behavior by, like, say, Western high living, I don't know how to put the right words to it, like people, high value living, right, cost, whatever, like say, in America, like the five that I mentioned, like Europe, America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Basically the Five Eyes. That's like there's like a spy network, right? That New Zealand is part of. It's called the Five Eyes, right? International body of like people, government spy networks like CIA and all that. So what I felt that's going to poison is going to drive people who are trying to get comics made to now go to AI. All right. So this is the next contention, right? Contention number 2 is poisoned by AI, right? Yeah, I get the spell right. I should have all these set up, but you know how this thing is. You got to type it in before, right? So let's see if I got my spelling right. Yeah, right. I didn't get that. Poisoned by AI. Let's get that right. Apologies, guys. This is on the cuff. I don't have a producer or anything. It's just me. All right. So this is where indie comics, I feel, is going to be poisoned by AI, and it has already started. If you have comic creators who, I guess, especially in the indie scene, who are already kind of like established or have been around for a while, have a following or whatever, right? What's going to happen now is because people are like, because of the value of the dollar, they're going to turn over to AI. And this is something that, like, for me, I despise AI in comics, right? Because we know AI in comics is basically just people scraping other people's amazing work, for to create regurgitated artwork. Now, before I go into that and point out my point about how I feel because of this dollar situation and how people like are talking about how you $15 isn't that much. It is to someone who's living in Philippines. It is someone who's living in Africa. It's a lot of money. As I showed, someone who's living in South America, in Argentina, Cuba. Like, dude, people can't even afford food there. Their money is like this much, is like worth about $1 US, right? Like all this like hyperinflation. Like, I'm not someone who knows a lot about finances when it comes to all like GDPs and all that. My brother David, he's the economics person, like, in our family. Like, he's the guy who knows everything to do with all that stuff, right? I just don't. Now, let's have a watch of this video, right? This is a video by let's get should follow this Catliente, right? So she's talking about like DC artists caught cheating, cheating, of course, tracing artwork and using AI. Francisco Martina, right? So let me just get the title out so I can we'll talk about this, right? And here we go.
Artists that are capable of drawing, but then also still somehow use AI in their processes for some goddamn reason. We have this guy who is, oh my god, this one is going to frustrate you guys because it frustrated me. This is an extremely well-detailed thread put together by Neb's Good Takes. Nebs, you have good takes. This is a thread documenting how Francesco Mattina, I'm not saying that right, I apologize, keeps getting work at DC Comics despite having been caught tracing art several times and is now generating variant covers with AI. What in the AI is this? We can get into this. While I'm posting all examples I can find, I'm still definitely missing some. So if you know other cases of Francesco Mattina's blatant plagiarism, then feel free to post examples yourself. So the first one is, his theft was first, noticed in May 2017, where Bleeding Cool posted an article noting that it looked like Francesco traced Ian McDonald's premium slideshow collectibles art print on the left for his Venomized variant cover of Jean Grey on the right. We look at this one. This is the original artwork by Ian McDonald, this is the traced one. If you put them side by side, it looks really suspicious. I'm gonna add another disclaimer. A lot of people are gonna be like, oh, it's just a coincidence. It looks so similar, you know, with AI and with art tracing. Sometimes one piece is all you need to determine it, but very infrequently. Mainly the way we determine whether it's made by AI or whether it's traced or both is through a collective history from this artist. So here we have later in 2017, Ji-Hyung Lee accused Francesco of tracing his piece for a variant cover of Venom number 150, where you can see that Matina blatantly took his art, mirrored it, and tilted it. So this one is Ji-Hyung's art, which looks really, really good. And then we have Francesco's piece. A little bit odd. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Francesco's piece, flip it and then tilt it a little bit. The pose is exactly the same. The distance that the shoe is hanging off the foot, like the distance between the heel and the shoe is the same. The leg angle is the same. The body pose, even the boob size is the same. The only thing that's a little bit different is this hand is missing in this piece because it became like part of Venom. 1 week later, Bleeding Cool posted an article noting that it appeared Francesco has traced a digital magnetosculpt by CG artist Daniel Bell, current art director of Slideshow Collectibles, for Matina's Venomized Astonishing X-Men #3 variant cover. This is the sculpture. This is the cover. If you look side by side, the body, the pose, etc. is really similar. What I really want you to notice though is the cape. Look at the swoosh of this cape on the sculpture. Look at the swoosh of the cape on this piece. A lot of artists use references for their art pieces. Sculptures are references, poses are references, But if you are going to trace off of a reference piece, then the reference piece should also be something you own. You know Riot Games, right? They make League of Legends, they make Valorant. When Riot Games...
So early on, when I did which I kind of like, I don't promote or anything anymore. I did a comic book called The Circle based off a feature film that I made as a student. It's a drama crime thriller type thing, right? And so I basically spent like all this time just like going over the like I took stills from my own film, right, my own stuff, because I was a camera person as well, right? So I shot the film, I wrote the film, I produced the film, and so later on, when I was trying to, back in 2007, when I got into comics, because I couldn't do filming anymore because like because I had a car accident, which means that I couldn't stand up and go to work, right? Because I was working as a salesperson, senior salesperson, making around about 50K a year, right, or more. Like I remember I did a sale for about, I got a bonus that year for around about 10K. That's how good I was, right? And so anyway, so I couldn't do it anymore. So what I didn't do was like, oh, I want to, all I want to do is tell stories. That's been my whole life. That's all I ever care about. And, when you go back to 2007, right, I've been writing, and like I mentioned earlier, stage, directing, writing skits, writing feature dramas, right, plays, whatever. And so anyway, so when I got to there, I turned that 90-page film, all right, a script, into a comic book script, edited a bit more stuff, rewrote a couple of scenes, and basically it's a 6-issue miniseries, which is like, it's kind of like woodcut style, and it was published. It's been printed. Rising Sun printed it. You can grab it there, in print. I've got a whole bunch, but it's something that, like, for me, I feel like it's not something I want to promote as, as a comic from us. I just want to promote stuff that's like high value and quality, right? And so that's when later on I went and got artists to work with me rather than me relying on my own thing. But that took me about 6 years, man, to like working on a mouse, and later on, like 2 years later, I was able to afford. Actually, took a loan to buy a Wacom. That friggin' $500 Wacom cost me like about $1,000 by the time I paid off the interest on it. I still have it. I now have two, right? I have a small one and the original A4 size at 8. So I would go around with the mouse, like initially, and then later on I'd trace around with even the ones I'd already done with the mouse. I'd go over and fix the lines up, because now I could use like a proper drawing tablet to trace over. So I understand what you're talking about tracing other people's work, or tracing your own work. But really, it would look like woodcut, and I like the style because that was what I was capable of. Later on, when I could afford to, or when I worked, joined a publisher, and so on, they were able to find me artists that I could work with, who I work with right now, right? I've got freaking amazing artists that actually do amazing work, which I am forever grateful that I've got amazing artists who friggin' deliver the greatest artwork I can think of, and that we are producing right now. The quality, like we're doing manga, we're doing friggin' fantasy, we're doing horror, right? Some of the work we're putting out is like friggin' top notch, right? I'm kind of like bummed that people don't see how good this work is or support the good work, right? Because it's just the way economy is right now. When you're no name in the indie comic scene or whatever in the comic scene, it's hard to try to break out, even doesn't, whatever you're doing, because it's about following now, right? You got to have clout. You got to have like 10,000 people following you, or 1,000, or whatever the case, right? You got to have enough people following you to get that. Now, here's a guy who's got all that, right? So here's a guy, Francisco Martino, who's got all that. He's worked for Marvel friggin' Comics, and he wants to go and trace, and he wants to use AI, which is what I'm talking about today, poisoning the well, right, of indie comics. Even poisoning the well of mainstream comics, but mainly it affects the indie comic scene so much, because this is where like it's really hard to get out there. And so you want to get like, oh, why don't I just freaking put a whole bunch of prompts and just throw this crap out there into the ether, and next thing you know, you can turn that lines into freaking amazing stuff, right? Yeah, based off other people's work, right? And so this is kind of sad, but I want later on I'm going to showcase one of my own friend, a New Zealand comic artist, who a AI prompt bro, right? Freaking, because my friend disagreed with him, basically took his work and turned it into AI to just like, stick it to him, right? To show, oh yeah, that kind of attitude. And that's the point. Yeah, this is where we're gonna put this in the middle, and now when later on we get to the number 2 point, which is about the comic book groups who don't have a friggin' clue about AI, who don't have a line in the sand about it, right? So let's carry on with I forgot her name, Catliente.
Games makes their splash art. They do kind of trace off of photos, but they take the reference photos themselves. So there's like photos on the internet of Riot devs, holding a stick and then like crouching down to try to pretend they're in Italy or something. The sculpture that was traced over is...
Apologies for stopping you, but I'll show you something, right? Let me open up this. I actually did that. That just reminded me of what I did for one of my characters for a cover for Templeton. Right, I got my artist James Hill, issue 1's coming out probably maybe late this year. All the art with issue 1's done, like done. Right, it's in the bank. The covers are almost. I think all the covers are in it. Well, apart from one last one's got penciled. It's getting inked now, and then the first cover's getting inked now as well. So let me. Did I do it? I think I named it design. Cover design or something like that. I had it in here and said cover design. Yeah, that is cover design only. So check this out, right? So I'm going to go through and show you guys what. And apologies, I'm in boxes and it's kind of weird, but it's a common thing, right? So here's me taking photos of like setting up, like trying to give up this thing, and like I'm going to try to make sure it's not so weird. Like what I wanted my artist here, this is the one I was trying to say, wanted my artist to draw, right, for one of the demons, right? And so that's the pose, right? And so let's take that off there. And so he then takes that amazing, I won't say that amazing pose. He takes that pose, right, and does this with it. Right, and this is me showing him, after that pose, and this is my artist then drawing that pose, right? Like, look at that, like that pose that I showed him. Like, this is what I wanted to do, right? and he's inking it there. So it's like, you know, you can see that, and that's JD Hill, right? And so let me see if I can find another one here where it's a bit more. Yeah. So this is it. This is the actual final version of that. I mean, like prior to getting it, you know, getting it inked. So here you go. So that's setting it up, just telling him that, you know, this is the post. So anyway, back to Catliente. Sort of like segue to that.
Not owned by Francesco. It is a different artist's work, which is now where you get tracing being not ethical anymore. Now we have the fourth one. In January 2019, Walter O'Neill, #3, former art director of Slideshow Collectibles, made a post accusing Francesco Mattina of tracing his Punisher art for a variant cover of the Batman Who Laughs Volume 2. While seemingly a generic pose, the hand and gun placements line up perfectly. I definitely would argue this example is probably the weakest one out of all the examples we're given, because I'm gonna be blunt, this looks really cool, but the pose is a little bit generic. It's just a dude holding a gun. However, I will say, take a note at the hand placement and the magazine. Like, look at the curve of the magazine. The magazine weirdly looks exactly the same on both guns. Even the hand placement with the 3 fingers and the index finger lower, 3 fingers, index finger lower, and thumb over the gun. It's just a lot of similarities, you know? And we have this one. In Walter's post, he also mentions how Francesco Mattina had blatantly traced a Judge Dredd piece by Greg Staples, who had also made art prints for Slideshow Collectible. This one is probably one of the most blatant ones. You can overlay this over each other, and it's basically 1-to-1. Like, even the nose, placement of the helmet, the head angle, like the jawline. This jawline is shifted up a little bit more forward, which looks actually weirdly unnatural. But actually, that is really odd on this piece. Anatomically, this looks very accurate because obviously it's made by the OG guy. Then this jawline is like, it looks like his jaw's broken and shifted upwards. Like he had like jaw reconstruction surgery or something. Again, I am not making fun of artists who make actual art. This guy is a known art thief who also is known to use AI, which is why I am making fun and mocking his artwork. I would never make mockery of an actual human artist. And then we have this one. Walter then noted that Francesco Mattina's variant cover of Batman #5 had also been traced from an older Batman commissioned by Gabriel Del Oro, who, by the way, has also made prints for Slideshow Collectibles. You notice a trend? He keeps stealing people's art who has made art for Slideshow Collectibles.
Exactly.
So we
That's
have
what
the
I was thinking
OG
in my
Batman
head.
drawing. This
That's
is
right.
gorgeous. Oh, look at this Batman. And if you put it side by side, the placement of the cape, like how the cape cuts upwards on the center of his pec and then it goes back down like that, the head angle, everything, the shoulders, all of this is the same. Even like the leg pose, the knee up like this, it's basically 1-to-1. At the end of a bleeding cool article covering this incident, a post by artist Adi Grunov, I'm sorry, I'm butchering everybody's names here, who, you guessed it, also sells prints on Slideshow Collectibles, was shown saying Mattina had traced his work too. Writer Rich Johnston then noted Marvel had cut ties with Mattina in 2018. In 2020, comic artist Alex Gardner accused comic artist Francesco Mattina of tracing his Annihilation Scourge Alpha #1 variant cover for a variant of The Flash number 750. Naturally, Alex Gardner also sells his print on the Slideshow Collectibles. But take note of this character. Look at the pose of the Flash. And here's more proof. Additionally, while in the comments of Alex Garner's post, I saw that Sean Strange C posted this image showing Francesco Mattina had also traced his variant for the Joker #1. This is from Riot Games. This is DC. You just mirror it, and the knife poses are the same.
The sad thing about this is you got a freaking job at DC and Marvel, right? You got a job at DC and Marvel, and this is how you want to treat that high level, you know, because it's clout, right? If you're working for, if you only did like one cover for DC or Marvel or a backup story, that goes into your like clout, right? That's like your, hey, this is my feather, my cap. And people go, oh yeah, okay. If they think that even if you only just did one page, right, that's value to your clout as an indie, or, you know, whatever, in the whole main universe of comic creations, right? And so why would you go and do that? Why would you go do AI? Why would you trace other people's work? You could just go get a model and go, hey, can you just, or get a girlfriend or whoever, go get a family member, go, hey, can you stand like this? And do it. I mean, seriously, like I showed earlier, I took photos of myself standing like this right? So like on the mattress, like in my bed, of me like this, so that my artist could see exactly what pose I was doing, so he could like take that pose and give me the artwork for that, that he did for the cover, which we're going to be printing out soon for Templeton, right? And yeah, it's a variant cover, one of the variant covers, because for Templeton, it's a all cover A's interlock into all 6 cover A's from each issue. So every other cover is just a cover BC and all that.
Later in 2020, DC Comics rewarded Francesco Mattina's theft by letting him design the box art for Batman Death in the Family. Reddit user Beyond9000 noticed the entire left side was traced from a piece by artist Zine Chin. So here is Zine Chin's art. Notice the floating teeth and the broken jaw. And here is Batman. Notice this section with the floating teeth and the broken jaw on the bottom. Even though the face here is different, look at the cutout on the bottom. Look, there's like an N and then 2 little crumbs and a little piece that sticks out. Look over here. There's an N, there's 2 little crumbs and a piece that sticks out. And then look at the jagged edges over here too. The shape is literally the same. He just stuck like somebody else's face over it. If it's a one-time case where 2 art pieces tend to look a little similar, it's suspicious, but it's not something that is warrant necessarily calling the artist out because it's a one-time case. We can give them the benefit of the doubt. You never know. Maybe it is a genuine accident. But at this point, I have showed you, I think, 8 examples of an almost one-to-one comparison between somebody's original artwork that also coincidentally almost always also had their art in these slideshow collectibles and Francesco's work. All of this together with the frequency of it and with how many instances there has been of Mattina, this DC artist, having art that is one-to-one traced over from other artists, we can confidently say this guy has traced. So Neb says, at this point, you may have noticed that while Francesco Mattina does trace from other artists, he still has the technical ability to draw on his own digital art, yet still chooses to plagiarize regardless. You may also be wondering why DC still works with him, and here's the answer. Wow, look at the comments. This is so sad. I haven't stopped buying his covers. If I'm an artist, I'll be mad too, but I'm only a consumer and I like his covers and I will continue to buy them. I hope your pillow is always warm, Jetman. Still gonna buy Mattina covers. Mattina can't file a defamation suit because he would have to prove not only that what accusers were saying untrue, but they also knew they were lying about him. I think Mattina's smart by ignoring it. Love that gamer note. It just is so discouraging that so many people are gonna turn a blind eye to this and just be like, yep, I'm still gonna buy it. It's okay. Right. I believe in karma. All of y'all are.
This is the poisoning of the comic industry, right? And this is what's gonna happen and is happening to indie comics as well. How AI is poisoning the damn thing, right? And it's gonna force, and then they're like, like I mentioned earlier about like how money is gonna force people who aren't, and I know it's happened, right? I interviewed a guy who I didn't know his comic book. He had produced a comic book. I was just talking to him about toy collecting and stuff, and his toy podcasting. But he'd actually written a graphic novel. And he had basically created the entire thing into a AI comic. And he said, well, it was going to cost me $20K US to get the thing done. Yeah. And then he wants people to pay for that, for art that people think is created by artists, but it isn't. It's created by scraping millions and millions of art from other actual human creators, right? For for however long the decades they've been putting out there into this AI comic book graphic novel that he's now selling. And it all comes down to money, right? It all comes down to money. I can put a couple freaking prompts in an AI generator and create comic book cover. And then I could basically, I know this guy was saying he could do to each panel. And he's like, oh, it's because I get exactly what I want. And I'm like, but so can you get from an artist? You don't have to pay an American artist to do that. You could reach out to somebody elsewhere, and pay an actual human being to do that. But like I said, it's not only just in a sense, it's not only just money, but money is a starting point when it comes to AI, right? But it's also the point of laziness, is the point of just disregard for what it is to be an artist, right? What it means to be a someone who's skilled at what they do, right? Someone who spent maybe decades, if not years, right? I should say years, if not decades, honing their skill. And like I said, I work with so many different artists from so many different countries, right? Several countries, I shouldn't say so many, but several countries, right? About 5 or 6 different places, right? Depending on which comics we're working on and which titles, right? So at any given time, there's about 7 or 8 people working with me, right, on specific titles. But it all comes down to appreciating what an artist is. If you do not appreciate the skill or the talent, the value that an artist with his years of learning, years of experience, study, it just means that you don't value the work of that person, of that, of artist. And because you don't value the work of the artist, you treat the art itself as rubbish. So you basically are going to jump into a prompter and come up with rubbish because really, like this, she said, right, this is what it is. People will still buy that because they just see what it is. They just see, oh, it looks nice. Boom, I'll pay for it. How do you pay for something that isn't even real? Isn't even created by a real person and think that's value? Why would? Because at the top of the day is people like Marvel and DC and Spawn, like Todd McFarlane, have not made up their mind to say no, right? And I say in this sense, like Marvel has said, no, we're not working with them anymore. But you have to, if you're a comic book publisher, and if you don't value your artists, and this is what happened, like what in the 90s, that's why they went and created Image, right? Recently, we talked about a while back, right? And everybody knows the story about one of like the first appearance of Deadpool. Got sold for $20K at some auction house by Marvel. Marvel pocketed all that themselves, and Liefeld didn't get a cent. Now that is worth $1 million. Somebody was saying like there was another auction for that same work for about $1 million or something, right? There was a post out saying about that same piece of work. That was what made people go away. I think it was maybe the earlier one, not before. I don't know. I can't remember the timeline for that. Sorry, apologies for that. I got that wrong, Rob. But anyway, you can look at the history of Image, right? There's many documentaries made. But because my head reaches, I get all the freaking thing out of time. Concussions, timelines, all rubbish to me. Rubbish in my head, I should say. And so anyway, they left. That's what Todd, basically went away and all that stuff because they didn't appreciate artists. They say, oh, the writers are more important than the artists. Yeah, I understand that because the writers comes up with all the ideas and stuff. And I'm a writer creator, right? So I understand that. Now, like the other day I was saying, like, oh, it doesn't, it takes longer for artists. Like, to be honest, it does probably take just as long, if not more, as a writer. And I kind of like demean myself by lowered myself by saying it takes longer. But like I realize that I've spent like 3 months writing a script, right? A 30-page script, and it's like I'm going days without getting it wrong, and I'm getting it days where I'm correcting my mistakes, and then days where I'm writing like 10 pages or 1 page. So I'm going to take that back, right? So that's my apology to writers. Yes, it's just as important as this, if not more so, as a writer creator. But that doesn't mean the artists aren't important. You're paying them for their value, for what they bring, because they're making your words, your ideas that are in your head come to life on a page. And that is just glorious to me as a creator, as a writer. And I think this thing here, right, this is the worst. Like, people just don't care. Normies just don't care about AI. They don't care if it takes you 2 hours to draw up a page, or an hour, or 3 hours. And if it only takes 30 seconds to AI prompt that page and then trace over or whatever, redo it. Well, like, listen to this.
Users were saying untrue, but they also knew they were lying about him. I think Matina's smart by ignoring. I'm only a consumer and I like his covers and I will continue to buy them. I hope your pillow is always warm, Jetman. Still gonna buy Matina covers. Matina can't file a defamation suit because he would have to prove not only that what accusers were saying untrue, but they also knew they were lying about him. I think Matina's smart by ignoring it. Love that gamer note. It just is so discouraging that so many people are gonna turn a blind eye to this and just be like, yep, I'm still gonna buy it. It's okay. I believe in karma. All of y'all are gonna have warm pillows for the entirety that you're supporting this guy. And this is another case of where it is harder to detect that this guy is using AI, which we'll go into later, because he can draw. So that makes it harder to detect because sometimes there's elements that look more legit than other AI art because there is some actual human rendering going on with it, but it is still using AI. Yesterday, DC revealed their September 2024 solicitations, in which Francesco Mattina has variant covers for Superman number 18, Batman Be Brave and the Bold number 17, and Action Comics number 1069. People immediately noticed that all three of these seem to be AI generated. This looks very AI. I'm gonna add a disclaimer right now. Every single time I nitpick AI art, people are always like, oh my God, Kat, you hate artists. Like, you're just making fun of this guy's mistakes. Da 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 da. I do not hate artists. Okay, I hate people who use AI, and I make fun of the mistakes that AI generates. I am not making fun of human errors that happens in artwork that I have made, that all of us who are actual human artists have made. I am mocking AI generation. I think using AI is not good in general, but this guy is profiting off of it also because he is a hired artist by DC. So he is making money from using AI, which is even worse.
Yeah.
The first one that we can see that's fucked up is look at the Superman, but except he has a racetrack on his chest. The perspective of Superman's chest is, you know, he's got pecs, but it's relatively flat, but it looks like the logo is like sticking out at a perpendicular angle. One, that's odd. And two, it looks like there's like a Frisbee or a Beyblade in the middle of it. And again, another disclaimer, if you are a human artist that makes these mistakes, I am not talking about you. Human artists makes mistakes all the time. We've all done that. This is made by AI. And this guy is known to steal and trace artwork. So we already know this guy's a thief. We have this one. Batman zoom in behind this dude. Oh, I need to like zoom in to see what is wrong with this one. This one, we got Superman zoom in with like pupil in the back here. If you look at the Superman logo, it's supposed to be the letter S, right? So we have an S, but then we have another line down here. And then the diamond closes at the very bottom. So what is this like extra line here? Again, we can determine this is AI because human artists place everything there with intention. Every element that is put on art pieces that is drawn by a human being is put with intention. So why would you intentionally draw a second bottom?
So like when I'm doing my logos and stuff, I'm, you know, like recently, this week, right? I had, let me just bring this up. This past week, when it comes to like, there's one book that we're working on where I do logos on placements on by myself because I just like, there's so many logos on the friggin' thing, right? So I go in and do it myself. But however, this week I had I was trying to do it, and then I realized that like I wasn't doing a good job on it, and like I don't want to like get to a point where the logo kind of looked crappy for me, and I just went, you know what? I'm just going to get one of my artists who's really good at perspective and get him to put the logo on, right? So because I was like doing it and stuff and it wasn't looking right. And I was like, yeah, nah. And so I sent that across to my artist and I went like, so this is it here, right? Let me bring that up so I can show you. So this is the cover, right? And we haven't put this out in print or anything like that. It's supposed to be like the cover is supposed to be this image is supposed to be for a call it a trading card, right? It was going to be like a trading card. However, I decided like, you know, I liked it so much, we'll do it as a cover, as an alternate cover, you know, variant cover. And then I was like, okay, so I got to go put a logo on this. And okay, so like this is what I went. I was like, okay, so this is what the logo is. And I was like, yo, man, it's like I need to fix it. That doesn't look right because I was like using like perspective, not myself doing it, but perspective on the as you know, to using the app that I use, Clip Studio Paint, to do it on there. So you know, there as you can see it, like sorry, that's yeah, so that's the design, right, of it. So I went and like, so I went and said to one of my guys, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like. You know, this is like my initial design of my character. And so can you pop it out and do it? So I got, I got Tomas to, Tomas, right? He's the one who's a manga artist for us. He's working on the Tortoise manga. And so I said, hey, can you do this for me? Like, can you make sure it looks all right? Because I just can't get it. I'm like, why not get an artist to do it, right? And so he did it for us. I mean, he should say for us. He did the design. And let me see. Actually, sorry. That's where's the finished piece? Oh, here's the other thing. So when I finally, and this is something I wrote, like, as you can see there, this design was done in like 2021, right? Like that's when I did it, like 3 years ago, right? So when I got that done 2021, and then just this past week, I went and said, you know what? I don't actually like that design. So I went and redesigned the logo because of, because I thought it was like, yeah, it's better if I just do a new logo design, and it looks much better. I like it. Parasail looks really cool with that logo. I think the other logo wasn't that great. As you can see here, I was messing around with it, and so it's a PNG. That's why it's like that. Sorry. So you can see that she looks really cool with that design. With then with the other one, and so we decided to go with that. So back to Catliente.
And close the diamond below it. They literally drew the Superman logo wrong for a hired art piece for DC. You're gonna tell me that that was a human mistake? Sometimes you could accidentally draw the logo wrong if you're a human artist, it happens to all of us. But this guy is hired to make art for DC. You're telling me that he didn't double, triple, quadruple check to make sure that the logo looks correct? This is also a guy who has made so many art pieces for DC. So you're telling me he has made hundreds of art pieces for DC and he still doesn't know what the Superman logo looks like. And again, this is a guy who is known to steal and trace artwork. Isn't this art supposed to be run by an art director? Like, there are people who are supposed to approve the artwork before it goes into print. So who greenlit this? Oh yeah, and more in AI. Look at her earrings. She has one humongous hoop and then one really, really tiny earring. It's very important to be careful when accusing artists of using AI, as these programs match the style of prominent digital artists and blur lines. Thankfully, I don't have to be careful here, since Francesco Mattina wasn't careful either. People always tell me, Kat, oh my god, why are you accusing artists of using AI? How dare you? You could possibly be hurting or their careers. When I talk about accusing people of AI, and when I accuse people of using AI, it's when I have a large amount of their artwork I can look at. If it's one piece with some inconsistencies, we can give them the benefit of the doubt. They could have used AI in just one piece, but they also could have had a bad day and made some, mistakes in their drawings. Over a large quantity of pieces, if we see a consistency in errors that are errors that AI has a common tendency to make, and a level of skill that would indicate this person shouldn't be making these mistakes, AI has a tendency to make what is considered beginner mistakes, oddly placing elements where they don't belong. These are mistakes that beginner artists make, that I made when I was a beginner. These are not mistakes that somebody like Francesco Mattina, who is a professional artist who is hired by DC to go make art for their characters, should be making. But again, this guy is a known art thief. The first thing again is the Superman logo. Like I pointed out, look, there's the bottom of the S and there's another bottom of the S. Again, this happens because AI is bad at writing. So AI probably effed up and finished the S, but then tried writing another S down here. This Batman one, it looks like the bat logo here doesn't have the ears. We got one wing, the other wing is melted off into nowhere. And again, you're gonna tell me that a guy who is hired by DC to make art of their characters and has been hired to do this for years still doesn't know the Batman logo. Also, Batman's eye is really tiny. And then this was what I pointed out earlier, how on Superman's chest, he's supposed to have the Superman logo, except the logo looks like a racetrack with a Beyblade inside the racetrack. So this one's really sad. That all being said, DC has made it clear that they'll continue to work with Francesco Mattina unless there's loud enough pushback, which seems pretty achievable right now. Bridget LaMonica says, the tragedy is he seems to have real talent. He's just not using it and shooting himself and all these artists in the foot. DC, you got to cut this guy loose. I mean, at the end of the day, it just sucks.
The other side of the coin is this. You have artists that are doing original work and they're getting paid. probably the same amount that they're paying this guy who is doing fake work using AI and tracing and getting the same amount of value for DC, and that DC doesn't want to let them go. This is what I call poisoning the friggin' well. And how is this poisoning we'll get to how this is poisoning the well of indie comics, right? The drying well, which when it comes to money, is a drying well, what I'm talking about, right? Because this is all about money. When you talk about AI, it's money, right? It's money and depreciation of artists and art created by humans, right? And I call it AI art. I don't even call it art. I call it fart, right? Fake art, right? That's what it is, fake art. So why would you pay for fake art? Like, why would you, as a DC comic who's built their friggin' whole business on the medium of art, allow a fake artist to produce work for them? At the time, they have all these other people who friggin' do anything to work for DC. Put a cheater on there on the payroll, right? It's freelancer still.
To see this, because when you see art theft and people stealing artwork, you would hope that from an industry perspective, companies would make a stand and like rally against AI, and that if they see this happening, that they would fire him for his usage of AI and his usage of tracing other people's artwork. There's enough examples over and over again to prove that this guy is a thief who traces artwork and who also uses AI in his artwork. And yet DC not taking a stand against this guy and kicking him out is honestly really disappointing to see. And it's something where it kind of sets the precedent that, oh, if these corporations will continue giving somebody who steals art money, then how could us artists actually have faith in this corporation? Not that we can have faith in corporations in general. I mean, they're all like soulless leeches, but
yeah, that's it. That's a good segue to what I want to talk about. So let me pop that off there. Right. So this week I had a friend, right, who emailed, who put a post out and then emailed me and told me about how, someone someone had posted on where are you? Posted AI art on a New Zealand comic creators community, right? The key point here is comic creator, right? So let me pop over to that group page and I'll, here we go. So this is my friend Justin Young. He's been on this channel previously. He's doing a kids comic. It's called Vault. It's coming soon. June release. I'm not sure where he's at with that right now. This is about February. He was like, putting it out there. Now, where are we? So recently, where is that piece? Come on, dude. So, like I said, this is a New Zealand comic creators community. I don't think AI is creating, right? It's got nothing to do with creators. They're not creators, right? So, is it featured? Right. So it's a volunteer group of New Zealand comic creators, right? So this one here, CCCC, right? Discussion. Come on, where's the friggin' AI thing? Let me see if I can find it through Justin. Dang it, annoying. Hold on. I thought it'll pop up right away, but Come on, Justin, where is your friggin' post? Apologies, guys. I thought it'd be like the top thing because it was like, you know, it was part of the whole thing discussion here. Or has it been removed or something? Let me just try something else. Let me just pop out of Facebook, and I'll get back to you. I'll go check into my messenger and see where the post was that I was sent. Okay, I've got the image now. So I need to find the link, right? Anyway, let's go have a look at the link while we're on this. So Guy basically went on the group page, right? And he posted, you know, this is who that is, like infamous studio. He posted this little thing on there, right? And here's what he then went and did. This is like the whole F of this all, right? So he went, and because he was like, Justin was saying, hey man, this is like AI art. This is, you should be pushing that, you know, putting that on this page, whatever the conversation was. So this, you know, fun is but limited. Oh, well, we'll do for now. So he went and took Volt, right? And he went and did this with it. The unlimited posted versus the infamous lecture search, right? Both AI. So he actually turned Justin's work into AI, right? As to like stick the knife in, right? Oh yeah, I didn't like what you said about my AI crap, so I'm gonna now turn your character into AI, right? This basically looks like something from, if I look at it right away, because you know, it's what the hell's your name? Sentry, right? Basically, it looks like Sentry now because that's what it looks like. It's been scraped from, right? And so that was kind of like a bummer thing for him to see what that guy had done with his work, right? His original work created to look like that. And so let's get back to the AI thing, right? Oh, with the post there. So what then happened was that, and this is where I came across, and I went like, you know what? To be honest, I think this is down to the group admins, right? And to say, hey, listen, you guys should have already made this up, made up decisions about this a year ago. As soon as you saw people doing AI when coming into comics, you sort of went, no AI on this page, right? No, on a comic group page, no AI. There are groups now having to say, name themselves indie comics, no AI, right? Being very direct. Now, so there was a whole lot of conversations going on with this, right? There was a whole lot of like, let me make sure that everything's here. So, you know, people in the community basically, here we go. This is the most important one here, right? AI and art are incompatible, right? So one of the admins, Jason, who's a friend of mine, right? And so I basically said, you know, what should have been done was, like I said just now, that if you have a comic group page where you have writers, creators, and artists on, colorists, inkers, or pencilists, whatever you want to do, you have to, as a group admin of that page, go, no AI allowed on this page, right at the top. Right, this is for human creators, human work, right? So here's some of the people who take this. This is like, I mean, from 3 days ago. This is when it all blew up, like over the weekend, And I'm just got this on here. I'm not trying to like put anything against anybody who's commenting on this. This is just, I'm just reading it out, right? I don't want you guys having anything, these are people's opinions, right? On a public group page of comic book creators, right? Some are long, some are short, as you can see, right? So let's go through this. And this is for New Zealand creators, right? This is the New Zealand comic book creators page. Tony goes, I've thought about this a lot. I can't decide. I've used it to generate a lot of backgrounds, and as a tool, it's pretty good at getting look development moved towards fast. I don't really understand. Tony sounds he's better. Like I'm no good either. Like I'm not any better. However, I have head injuries, so I actually miss out words completely. Right, totally. Like I think I've written it down. Brain says you've written it down. I go back later and go, I miss a word out. I do that like a lot. So I have to go back and edit it. Like I've actually had my friends call me up and go, look, man, you got to keep reading it over before you post it. I was like, I saw it. It was there. The word was there, but it wasn't. Right. But that's head injuries. Right. And that's something I'm actually having to deal with right now. Like the amount of work I do in a day, like mentally, is like I get to a point like around about, I think about, depending on how much detail I'm trying to do, or how much I am trying to like really think, my eyes started getting cloudy. And the next minute when I'm like, stop, clear, man. Like I feel like tired. Like I feel like I need to just sleep. And the moment I stop, I'm awake. It's like, and so I'm having to really manage myself better. I mean, like I haven't had to do this before, but like now it's getting worse and worse. So I'm having to really think about the amount of time I put into what I'm doing creatively, because it's really affecting me. Like not my mental health. I guess it's mental, right? Whatever, but like my physical exhaustion from my mental thing, right? Like the creativity. Anyway, so I don't know how old this person is or whatever, so I'm not even going to look into them to figure out what's going on here. But this does not make sense to me, right? Pretty good at getting look development moved towards fast. What? And he's saying it's he's probably, I might be wrong, but he's trying to basically it as a tool, it helps you get to what you're trying to think. Saying, oh, I'm thinking about this, and then you can put the prompts in and it'll give you something. And now that'll give you an idea to draw. And I don't mind that at all. Personally, I think that's what it's there for. A tool, right? AI is a tool, but not to friggin' sell that now and make money of it, saying that you did that, right? That you drew that. Because not only is it fake to say that and cheating, but you're actually ripping off people. That's why AI art on AI comics or AI art sold on Kickstarter and crowdfunding sites should not be allowed. You go and create your own friggin' AI. It's just like what I'm saying. Like it's like man and biological man in women's sport should not be allowed. Go create a transgender sports thing, right? Go and create its own thing, right? Because that way you have your own thing. And this is what my friend later says there. Hey, just go create your own group and say this is an AI comic group page. And so everybody looks at it, already knows what it is. It does, so you don't poison the well between the human artist and the friggin' computer fake crap prompts art that you've basically faked from everybody else's work, and you've stolen from everybody else's work to create that fake piece of crap, right? So now this is important here, right? But it's soulless and destroying many of the industries I work in. So this is a guy, it's actually an artist who's working for people saying that. I've had people basically lose. I've had a friend who's lost a job. I mean, a friend's friend who's lost a job because of AI. Because now, why do we need you now? We can just prompt that into the thing, and now we can, trace over it. Now, he goes on to say it's, I don't know if it's Tony is he or she, so I just like that. Tony goes on to say it's certainly a complex issue. It's not a complex issue. It is not a complex issue. It shouldn't be a complex issue. There's art and there's computer prompts, right? AI has AI in front of it. Artificial intelligence, not human. There is no frigging confusion. It's not complex at all. The problem is people don't understand that it's one thing's one thing, one thing's another thing. There's no confusion. Confusion is when people don't even understand what an artist is or does compared to what a computer prompt is. How can you not understand the difference between the two? This is clay. This is plastic. Right? See? This is AI. This is human. So there should be no contention between it. It's not a complex issue at all. A complex issue is when people who call themselves artists, and I'm not picking on Tony here because I know there's a lot of people who call themselves artists are not using AI as a tool, but the end thing. Because they do that, they want to muddy and poison the well. And like I said, this is going to affect indie comics more because of the money issue. Hey, I can't afford to pay you, like I said earlier about the guy who said, oh, it's going to cost me $20,000 to get this comic book made, so I'm just going to go to AI, spend months and months like creating panels of AI to put into my comic book. Now I'm going to go sell that as a real thing, right? And that's the whole thing. It's like it's actual people who are creating these things and creating a fully completed AI comic book and then selling it. It's completely AI, computer generated. And okay, and I'm not even talking about computer, digital artists. This got nothing to do with digital artists. They're actually artists. This isn't art. And these aren't artists. These are prompters, right? And they are soulless. As I showed you, that guy basically took my friend's art that he had drawn, that he had created, that he spent working on, that he's doing a comic book on, and basically just chucked it into AI and said, hey, look, I can do it better than you. This is what it's about. And why would you allow space for that? That's because people think it's a complex issue. It's not a complex issue. AI is AI. Artificial. Art by humans is art. There is no contention between the two. It's two different friggin' things. All right, so carry on, right? Here we go. If I had a vote, I would say keep it in its own space. Exactly. Now you guys said exactly what I just said about like women's boxing right now. Create its own category for AI and comic art, right? Leave this one as AI free. Exactly. This place, if you are saying this is a place where you nurture comic book artists and creators and comic book, right? Then it should not have anything to do with AI at all. Draw the friggin' line in the sand. Don't be wishy-washy about it. If you're a group, if you're admin, right, on a group page and I'm not just picking on this one, right? Because if you're going to say this is comic book thing, where we want to talk about comic artists and comic book creators and writers and showcase your work, you're already saying this is what this is for. Then be straight up about it if you're a group admin on a comic. Because even if you don't even freaking create yourself, you have to you have to protect the art that's being put on that comic, group page, right? That is being shared, that other people are commenting on to encourage that artist, or that artist is sharing to so that you would look at it and support that artist whenever he goes to print, goes publish, because you're trying to help them grow and you're trying to support. The idea that there is contention is because people are muddying the friggin' water. They're poisoning the well, right? Which is the theme of the day, right? So let's carry on. Right. But even if that's kind of impossible, no, it's not. Do you see what I mean? Like how it's getting, and I'm not picking on Tony because I know many people think this way. I learned years ago, like a friend, a mentor of mine said, like if one person writes a letter to the editor and says this, there's 10 other people that who think like the same way. Might be more, might be 100 people same way. When it comes to AI right now, it's maybe 100,000 people think that way, 10,000 people, right? And this is what muddies the water. Because people haven't decided in their own head, in themselves, what's okay and what's not okay. And because of that level of sitting on the fence, right? Because of that level of sitting on the fence, that is adding to the well, like poisoning the well, right? Muddying the water. That's adding to the corruption that is going on in the comic art scene with AI being allowed to be on comic book page, the group pages, being allowed to be on like part of friggin' crowdfunding and stuff. And I don't like I said, AI, put it right at the top. I when we were looking at this, we looked at a person like this like a year ago, right? This is when it started all popping off. And this is when everybody should have made a line in the sand, say, boom. And I've said this to my friend Justin. I said, this is when it should have been done. The moment AI moved into comics is the moment you say no, right? And this group page and this and like this is what we're going to do. Like for me, I was like, no. I had a friend of mine who said, like, asked me, like, what do you think about this? I was like, AI, and what does your artist think? I said, no. I'm a part of a group page that says AI artists against AI art. There's like thousands of people on there, right? It's just like me. It's like, right? Gays against groomers. It's clear. If you are not sure in yourself what it is, don't say anything about it, right? Because all you're doing is muddying the water, right? So here we go. So, and I'm, like I said, I'm not picking on Tony. And I'm being serious about that. I'm not picking on Tony because I know there's 10,000 people else who think like this. So why should I just, pick on Tony here, right? And I'm just reading the comments because this is on a New Zealand comic book creators page, group page, I should, All right. So even that's kind of impossible. If I want to do, right? So he goes, if all I want to do was write prompts and fix the bits that AI didn't do properly with Photoshop, it would be fine, but dull. See what I mean? This is what a lot of people think. I'm having trouble with it. Well, go and ask another artist. Hey, what do you see anything wrong with that? Like I said, I just did that with my friggin' logo. Wasn't coming up right. And so I ended up saying to my artist, well, hold on. I don't like it. I'm just going to redesign the logo, which I did. 3 years later, I redesigned the logo. Because it just didn't look right once it was on there, right? It looked fine while I was doing it on like on that pose, but when I went to another pose, it just didn't look right. And I felt like, hey, I got to do this like hundreds of times later. And if it doesn't look right to me right now, well, I'll just change it, which I did. I just changed the entire freaking logo, and she looks great with the logo now. Right. Right. So he said dull, right? But that's not what I drew. Why I draw. And here's the thing, right? So that's not why I draw. He says. They say, because like I said, Tony could be the same as I think Tony with a Y is male and with an I as female. So I just got he says, right? But that's not why I draw. I draw to draw. That's why I create art. I create art to create art. I don't, that's what I do, right? And this is the thing. It's like, why do, I don't get a frigging computer to write my scripts based on the prompts, because I like to be 100% into my, every word I put on that comic book, right, is me putting it on that comic book, right? Like they say, what's and all, right? Because I'm creating this story from my own brain, right? So I don't want anything affected. It's just the same thing I've mentioned earlier about like being drunk or being like, on drugs or anything like that. I early on, like this is like about 20, 30 years now, in my 20s, I decided that I did not want anything influencing my writing. That's the same way I feel about AI art. I don't want even AI art. I mean, writers like text or prompts affect my writing. I don't even touch that, right? Same thing with my art. I don't want to be working with anyone who's using AI prompts, because if I'm working with you, I want everybody to know when this work goes out there into the world that this is created by humans, that we as a studio, right, which is the Plunge Studio, right, when we put out comics from Plunge Comics, it is 100% human created art. The reason for that is because I value my work first to be real and created by a human, me, and I value an artist because it's a human. I value art that's been created by a human, and I want people to understand that. Hey, it might take us 2 years, maybe take us a year, 3 years. By the time you get that work in your hands, it is created by us. Whether it's like the artist, inker, colorist, or me as a writer. Everything on that page is being put together by me, apart from the art. So, which is like friggin', when you come down to it, it's like about 70% of the work is done by me, right? And then the artist does all that hard work of bring that to life. So that is important to me. And I think a lot of times, I don't like people thinking that I would never want anybody to think that there's anything that's coming out from us that can be put through an AI generator to find out, is this AI art? That will really bum me out. And I've always told my artists, I said, I don't want anything to do with AI. I mean, I don't mind if you're like coming up with some settings or something, and then you're going to go draw that, because I want you to draw that by your hand. I want you to color that by you, right? Because people expect certain things, right? Nobody wants fake art, and AI is fake art. That's why I say it's fart, right? Fake art. So, right, because the thing here, but Tony carries on and finishes it, but I'll get that. You have to know that there is no contention between AI and right from the start, the word go. One's art, one's not. One's fake, one's real. The problem is people with like art is subjective and all this stuff. Listen, it's like when they used to do like cat art and all that stuff. We're like, oh, the elephant puts it's art. That's when it all got muddied. That's not art, right? It's like when people stuck a friggin' banana on a wall and they go, that's art, right? When they stuck a Madonna in oh, there's so much meaning. Well, why don't you yourself sculpt the Madonna, right, Mary, and then also went and created from scratch a condom, and then went and created this real art created by humans, not by a machine, right, or molded by some other body. You did that. There'll be more meaning to that. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's just a friggin' statue in a friggin' condom, right? And this is what I mean. This mudding of art has gone back a long time. Faking of art has been around for ages, right? So back to Tony's comment. Also, AI is creepy and hollow. If you want empty hollowness, then let it in. And they're talking about like that group page, right? You will then generate a whole different type of artist page. Personally, and this is what it was asking. Like he was asking about what, should we allow that? And I'm like, and this is what the question he is for this group. And a lot of people will be asking a lot of group admins about this as well. So, but we just hit it first, I guess. Maybe not first, but on this page we hit, I think for New Zealand, we got to it first as New Zealand artist creators, right? Comic book creators, I should say. Personally, I'm already concerned my new works will be seen as AI generated, even though it's just ink. Fuck. As you can see, I'm torn regarding this. Let's see what you decide. Okay, this is talking about Edmund. Peter goes, no, AI prompt creators would be a more apt group for it. 100% agreed. Like I said, that's what it should be done. Create your own friggin' page. Rebecca goes, I'm all for people having a right to create in whatever that format they choose. I'm not okay with people taking another person's original work and then redeveloping and passing it off as their own, which happened. Right? I should put that there. Right? And I'm 100% with that one as well. And Dene says, I'm new here, so probably can't really say much, but to me, AI is using other artists' work without their consent. 100%. That happened. That I showed you that image before with Justin's work. And again, all right, so you guys can, I'll put the it's not even, but I'm gonna read Shane's work, right? And then I'm gonna read my one, and then I'm gonna leave that because this can go on for ages. There's quite a few comments here, and quite a lot of them are long as. So I'll just go with mine and Shane's because Shane's one of my best friends, and also, So Shane goes, and he's an admin there as well, right? And I'll finish with this because this is, I'm not going to carry on for too long today because I want to get back to working on the comics. And probably later on I'll come and do that another time. But my opinion, right? Because AI isn't suitable for creators, writers, and artists until the ethical questions have been sorted out. They borrow images, steal, and that's why it's put on as you can see with the comma or whatever, images without consent or acknowledgement to the original artist. If you create content with AI, you have no legal copyright either. So why would you create content with it? On the personal basis, on the personal side of this, it was an attack on his artwork. Oh yeah, here goes. It was an attack on his artwork. No helpful advice, no constructive question, no ideas to make the work stronger. Just an attack, almost personal, without the AI debate. He still acted like, it's talking about that guy who did that art that I showed before. I mean, took Justin's work and basically turned it turned his work into an AI with another AI character, right? Which is this one here. Let me just see if you guys have seen that. Nope, you're not seeing that. Oh, hey, Nathaniel, sorry, I wasn't looking here. Not in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Let me go back up a bit. Yeah, you're conflating art and talent, which are two different things. You're right, right? That's what that guy was saying. Not even talent. I mean technical skill. But I'm here to late to the stream, so I'm devoid of context. Yeah, basically there was there was a post made by an AI guy with his AI art on a NZ comic book creators page, right? And this is like this page has been around for ages. It's a group page to encourage other artists and creators in New Zealand, right, to showcase your work and get some, critique on it. Hey, what am I doing? Have a look at my work. Also, to share, share links, share art, whatever, right? Get helpful, comments. So what happened was, there was like, hey, that one of the guys said, hey, that's AI art, and so on, and this is not the place for that, because we're here to encourage artists, right? And so what happened was that guy who did that, let me just show it, got all pissed off, started trolling, and ended up taking one of my friend's original works, and AI'd it, right? And this is a rubbish, and he's calling themselves studio. Yeah, when you're creating AIs, it's not even a studio, it's just you prompting shit. And I just, AI is shit, as far as I'm concerned. And so he went and did this to it. He did it as an original work. I took my friend's original work and did that to that. And that's basically what started this whole contention of the whole situation. And so what then happened was, like, the admin, one of the admins, asked the question, what are we supposed to do, right? And so, what do you guys want to do about this page? And so this is some of the comments. So I'm just going to finish off here with my friend Shane's work. In Shane's comment, this is Shane here, and I've put up his work many times. As you guys, if you've been here before, this is my Christmas gift from 2022, right? So Art of Evans, do follow him. You'll see his amazing work, on his page. Anywhere it's Art of Evans, he's brilliant. Facebook and Instagram, amazing artist. And he also did design this, but he didn't paint it himself. This is the original sort of look of Incredible, but the high school girls painted the high school Whangarei Girls High art senior art class painted it and did it for us for for this thing here. That one, yeah, for the Plunge Comics, Anime, and Pop Culture Convention. Right. So back to this. So the thing here, let me get back to what Shane was saying, and then we'll get back to chat. So you're saying, like, basically the guy, started attacking Justin because Justin said, hey, this is not the place for you to be putting out your stuff, because this is for human artists, right? This is for actual artists, right? And so, with that AI debate, he still acted like like an angry internet troll. Basically, that's kind of the part of parcel of that AI is now. It's like, hey, there's like all these guys, the prompt bros, right? Or they're saying, oh, look, you guys have been gatekeeping art from everybody. It's like, and the whole point was like, yo, pick up a pencil, right? Pick up a pencil and draw, man. Well, nobody's friggin' ever is stopping, bring that up there. Nobody's actually ever stopping anyone from, artist has ever said to another person, don't do it. As far as I know, we actually with the convention was going, we wanted to show young kids how to get into art and writing. Hey, this is the future. If you're interested in drawing, hey, look at what you can do. You can become a game designer. You can become a graphic artist. You can do into cosplay. All the stuff, right? You can do comic books, and we've had people come up and talk and try to encourage. And right now, I mean, like a friend of mine, like, let me just pop over to I want to show you what happened this weekend, right? Shane and another person here has got a group called Make Comics NZ on Facebook, and some guys just posted this weekend, and here's and I put of how many kids turned up, right? This is how many kids turned up because of that encouraging that we've been doing over the last 5 years, and probably the last including the last 2 years, because of there's another pop culture thing got set up as well. So this here we go. So this is in a library, not supported by a library or anything like that. People just get together. Where are we? Here we go. Right. And just turn up on a Sunday, fortnightly, I think it was, and you just bring your pen and paper and just draw and be encouraged by other artists. Look at the age group. You got a friggin', what is it, like a 7-year-old kid, 5-year-old kid here, to an adult, right? Look at the back there, 2 teenagers. And this is just 2 guys who set it up, like Shane and another friend of mine, right? Look, parents bringing their kids across, and that's Shane, of course. People just drawing stuff, right? All different styles, just being encouraged to create comic books. This isn't AI prompt bros. This is actual people getting encouraged to create stuff, right? And this is growing up from just like a couple of people turning up, and so they've put out a scene. Like now, it's got 272 members, but this is locally. This is here in my city, in our library, right? And so they have a meetup. Matt is one of the other guys there who set this up. He used to do life drawing comics of his own and stuff. And now they get together. And last time they put up a. I'm not sure if I've got one here. Is it here? I should have. Oh god, I thought I had it here, but it's probably elsewhere. But I had the zine they put out with their work, right? It's probably put up somewhere else. But so this is the group, right? Creative Comics creating comics. Creative Kiwis creating comics, right? So wonder why it's not giving me the entire page and showing more. Oh, here we go. So this is so they meet up I think it's like every second Sunday or something. Getting encouraged to create art. This is more like an anime, so manga style art, right? People showing their pieces off, and other, stuff that's coming out. Just encouraging, right? Oh, this is from Shane. Recently he was at a local pop culture thing, convention. That's it there. So you got other people being encouraged to do that, coming across. And this is of course Bolt from Justin. That's the one that got ripped off, that got prompt road, right? His character Volt. And of course Shane's got all his work as well, being published. And that's also that's very encouraging as well, when you have an actual guy who's published his own work, and you see the work and you see the finished piece. That's pretty cool. So now let's get back to my comment on that page, and then we'll finish off with the AI side of things. So, basically that's really what it comes down to. They're trolling, right? These guys are trolling comic book artists, they're comic book creators, because they want to say you're being gatekeeping. Like, dude, just pick up a pencil, go do some art classes, go do some figure drawings. Hey, even trace. Just don't say it's, don't try to sell it off his work if you're tracing. When I was like, in my early days, right? Like this is like 20, 30 years ago, right? We used to have like Friday night art at my house. We'd have a bottle of wine, because my house, we had like artists, right? We had who's a tattoo artist now? We had like a Maori arts student, right? So he was into like drawing Maori characters. I like designs and stuff. And then we had a second year student, because I was like first year at that time. And so we had another one who was a potter, right? And then I also was like, I was doing clay and stuff like that, and I'll be painting and I'll be drawing. And so what I'd be doing was like, at that point let me just get out of there. What I was doing was like, I'd take a panel, like a little panel from a comic book, and blast it into like a A2 size. And I got paid $100 for one of the pieces I did. So what I would do is like take a little, really like kind of like, I can't remember who was doing that. Who's that guy with a can of soup guy? That guy, Warhol, right? So I would take a little tiny panel and I would like blow it right up into like A2, A1, A2 size. Yeah, about yay big, right? Kind of, and then I would draw that basically like this size, right? Just and paint it and everything. And that was just me doing it for myself. But I remember one time it was Wolverine, right? And this is what I mean, like my art is all over the world. I don't even all over the country. I have all this stuff that like for the last 30 years, I don't have a lot of like I only have like what's left in my family that actually exists. Everybody else has got my work. Like I mean, I'm like hundreds of pieces of work is just gone and being swapped or destroyed or actually given as gifts or I don't even know what I've done or I don't remember what I've done because I've done so many like paintings, right? Like friggin' 2 meter tall paintings, right? And so on, or even more than that, like friggin' 2 by 3 meter paintings that I've just done in the 2000s gone. Anyway, oil paintings as well, by the way, not just acrylic, but oils and everything else. Like, yeah. So what happened was that this is like back in like 94, yeah, about 94, 95, probably 94. And this is my first year of of my diploma course in craft design art. I painted, taking a little friggin' tiny panel and blowing it up to that big, right? And there was a birthday coming up, and one of my friends said, "Hey," she was also a student. She said, "Hey, my kid, can I buy that?" Oh no, she actually commissioned me. She's like, "Hey, can you?" And this is 30 years ago, like 94. That's 30 friggin' years ago. I was like 20 something, right? Yeah, I'll be 21. So she said, "No, it would have been about." Anyway, it doesn't matter. Day. So she said, "Hey, can you do that?" So I did one, and she gave me $100. And I did that like just for the fun of it. Like I was doing it for the fun of it. But then she said, I'll give you $100 for that. It's like, cool. Because it took me ages to do it, like about 5 hours. So $20 an hour is good, because I had to go and buy, like it cost me, I think maybe about $10 just for the cardboard that I was going to do it on. Because it's that heavy, thick cardboard, glossy and all that. And then to like paint it and everything took time. And this was on the side of doing what I was doing anyway as a student. So I understand, that side of things like tracing and stuff and all that. But I never once said like, this is my art. Like, I mean, this is what I did. I said, this is what I transferred to that. This is based off this. And this is what it is. When you take a little friggin' 2-inch, 3-inch panel and you blow it up to that big, you basically spent friggin' 20 hours working on that or 10 hours working on that. But with the AI prompt pros, right? You're seriously trying to figure out, like, what is the point of it? Like, what is like? Why are you even having? Why is there even a question whether it's art or not? Because it's prompting. When has prompting become art? Right? It's like this is what I don't understand. Like, it's like AI art, right? Human created and machine created. Plastic, right? Not feeling, without expression, without emotion. It's like, do this way. Thank you. Done. Right? So back to this little last comment here. So this is what I did. Like, since when was it a question, right? AI prompters aren't artists. Therefore, if this page is for artists and or not is a question, right? The fact you are even suggesting it shows how ignorant you are of what artists are or do. I think it's time to create a New Zealand comic group page that is for New Zealand artists and prompters. Sorry, in a sense, like I'm not. It kind of sounds meaning like was like mean-hearted. Wasn't what I meant. It was like freaking 10 o'clock at night. I got a message and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to say, right? So I should actually edit that to make it right. You know, the fact that it should be saying like, okay, you know, what should this page should be for creators, create another page, and I'll go in and edit it later, right? Should create another group for that, right? If anyone doesn't understand the difference, go and get educated first, right? Like I said, just I got woken up and that was it. So what, you know, this is what happened with the recent AI art posted. Recent AI art post, it was one post which created this whole thing. It's time as a group to confirm our policy on AI art. The admins will discuss. Feel free to comment below. Silver Reaper, right? So this is what's going to come down to, I think, in a lot is like, at the end of the day, if you're a comic groups page, you should already have decided what you wanted to do about AI and art. The difference between the human and the computer, right? It's not the same. Allowing the water to get muddied by that, right? Getting the well to get poisoned by AI, in creator groups, especially when you got artists and all that, is not a good thing. Like, just make up your friggin' mind straight from the start. Like, this is what this group is, right? It's just, and here's the thing: both of those guys, admins on this, are my friends. I know them personally, right? And it's not like I know them over the internet. No, I know them personally as human beings in physical. No, I mean, I've met them, I've talked with them in person. So, but the problem here is because people are not making up their minds ahead of time. The moment it starts, what that's allowed is to water to comic books to get the art form of this. That's not attacking writers. However, I know there are writers out there who are using AI to write their scripts. I'm not one of them. The reason for that is I want my work to be my work. I can't call my work if I'm using AI. I'm that freaking that guy who's so freaking jealous of my work that I don't want anything else to be touched that isn't humans or me involved in it. Like, I put my pages together, right? Like I said, I do 70% of what the comics are created. The only thing I don't do is the artwork. And even when the artwork comes in, I would tell my guys, okay, this and this and that, because I want it to look a certain way, because I act as a director, as a producer, as a writer, as a creator when it comes to the film, in that sort of sense. And when it comes to comic books, I look at it as a film that I'm creating. So, because that's my background, right? And I'm making sure that everything is where it needs to be. And why would I then go and use a computer to tell me where I should put things? Because I already know what I want my work to look like. And so, but the problem, like the early, when I mentioned earlier, with the first point of this stream, was like how money, right? Money is going to affect how we as creators are going to be putting out art now. And if you're a guy over in Africa who's got $5 per page US to offer, which to an African from Nigeria or whatever lower socioeconomic situation their country is, that's all they can afford. And you're an American who specs $60 an hour, but and then you jump on that guy who can only afford $5 to pay someone for a page. That guy's going to say, screw these friggin' artists. I'm going to go do AI. I'm just going to go use AI. And then not only that, you're going to go, oh, that's AI now. And then he's going to say, yeah, I looked for somebody, but before anybody could actually come and say, hey, I can do that for $5 an hour, mate. I mean, $5 a page US, because that $5 is now $20 in my country to me. Right. And so what's happening now is Western people are forcing poor nation, native, indigenous, whatever you want to call it, right? Socioeconomic country people, artists from those countries into AI. And you're going to get, and this is what I'm talking about, the muddying of the waters. That's what is poison the well of indie comics. And you're going to see a lot more AI shit come out, traced over, that looks like it hasn't been AI'd, but you will see it because of the fact is that people don't understand that there are people over the world who can survive on $US a day. But Americans cannot survive on $US a day because everything in their country is a higher living cost, right? And that is going to force, like I keep saying, is going to force independent creators into AI to become tracers, to use that, and then you're going to go, then you'll turn around again in the West and go, it's AI, and they go, oh, that's all I could afford, nothing, right? Because when I try to give you $5 to my fellow countrymen to do some work for me, you jump down his throat and said, well, he should be getting paid $60. And I was like, yeah, but that is like about a whole week's worth of wages to him. $60 US, right? Or it could be a friggin' month, right? That's why I showed you guys the friggin' exchange rate thing. Like, seriously, when you look at this, right? $15 US was what that guy was offering, right? So if you look at to an artist, hey, do me $15. That's an hour's rate. That's kind of like just above hourly rate, if I remember right. I think it's about $21 New Zealand is an hour's rate. So if you're gonna, if you're gonna say 25 bucks New Zealand, right, which is an hourly rate, just around about above minimum wage, and you're offering that to someone in Philippines, he's like, dude, that's like a half day's work. That's like 4 hours of work. I'm getting paid for 4 hours of work. He's going to take it up. But if you're in America and go, well, that's not much at all, mate. That's like a burger to me. But that's 4 burgers to that guy, or 5 from where he is at. Same like, let's look at India, right? Like, I mean, because you're going to get a lot more, because there's a friggin' billion people in India, right? They're like one of the highest populated, like second is China. So, or is it the other way? I can't, I can't figure. I don't remember. So let's say India, right? Rupee. Where is it? All right. See that? 1,200 rupee. This is why Westerners have no clue about how GDPs work, how exchange work, because they never look at the exchange rate. All they see is, oh, I want $60 an hour for this thing. Okay, cool. You have your $60. Someone in Brazil would do it for 30 or 15 or 20, because in their own country, not even just Brazil, Brazil's a bit more higher economic, not just Brazil, but say someone like Argentina, right? Say someone like over in Chile, and these are like more higher economic people, right? Yeah, and then you've got someone like over, let's say Cuba, right? Cuba's like, they've been living under socialism to a point where they can barely eat. Argentina's like, we had riots just this week in Argentina, right? And with hey George, in Argentina, their people were leaving the country because how bad it was, right? Because they're Maduro. Because I'm a guy who watches all these things, right? I'm one of these guys who soaks up documentaries, news items, and you see me on my, if you follow me on Facebook, and if you allow, if I let you in, because I keep it very private. You'll see all these political posts on there, not because I'm into politics, it's that I just like to make everybody aware of it and remind myself what there's other people around the world. Right. So if you only navel gaze about everybody should be looking at everything through American eyes or UK eyes or Australian eyes or New Zealand eyes, we should do everything in American dollars. You're very ignorant of the world. Right now, China's underwater or in drought. And so if you've been like doing business with China, you're not going to get your things early. You're going to like months and months and months. Not only that. So back to like the financial thing, right? If you are able to pay, say, like, you know, $15 to an Indian guy, right? And I don't want to go and say how much is an apple, right, in India, because it could be like 5 rupees, right? But when I did it to Fiji, because I know value of stuff in Fiji, right? So let's go to, or even New Zealand, right? Let's go to New Zealand, which is probably a better way because, hey, I buy stuff in New Zealand all the time, right? So here, I mean, let's go. Say a comic book in New Zealand is, let's say in America, let's say it's a $3.99 comic book, right? So now it's $6.90. You see that? So it's already double, right? $6.60, I should say. However, that's the wrong price, retail price. Because the retail price is actually twice that amount. And I'll show you. Let me get to one of the places where I buy my comics from. Where are you? So this week, let's say, here we go. So okay, so there's a regular cover. Here we go. So this is comic that just came out this week, episode Power Task Force 7 from, let me get to the screen for you guys. Task Force 7, right? So this is a comic that came out from DC Comics, right, with their new Absolute Power thing. Right, so here we go. It's $12.95. This is the cardstock variant, right? So a regular price of a comic book, and I just showed you, right, like a standard comic book in New Zealand, is $10. That's basically 3 times the amount of a comic book, right, in US. So if I'm paying, say, $50 or whatever, you know, whatever for an artist to do me a color in a US dollars. So let's get back to that, this one. So if I'm paying, so remember, a comic book in the US cost whatever. What I mean, was it like $3, $2.99? What was the price range? Yeah, $3.99. Yeah, so that one, what the episode one I just put up, that's $9.99. And that's not adding GST to that. I think the retail is going to give me a couple more on that. So that's what it's supposed to be. But with the taxes, remember, it came to $10, $9.95. So that means $1 American dollar for goods is $3 New Zealand, right? So if I'm to pay, say, like, I don't know, say $50 for a page for Illustrator, that now is $82. However, and this is the most important part, that $83 is basically ends up being 3 times financial value per product. So you get that. And I'm not that smart when it comes to economics. I'm not a mathematician. Like I said earlier, my brother David, the youngest boy out of us 4 brothers, he's the smartest. He's actually worked for Coca-Cola and due to his e-commerce things, right? And so, you know, in another country where they pay more for him than they paid him here, right? For basically the same job. But he got upskilled. He's very smart. He's probably the smartest in our family when it comes to that sort of stuff. Anyway, so even though, right, when you look at that, let me go back up there so you can see it better. So that $84, right, will give me a week's worth of groceries as a single person. I'm not talking about like having mom, dad, family, me. And that's on a budget. If I really budget, I don't know how much $50. George, if you're still here, George, can you tell me, as a single person, how much would it, tell us in the chat, how much would $50 US buy for groceries in America? Because for a single person, that'll give me my week's worth of groceries. If I scrimp, right, I will get my, say $20 on meats. No, I'll probably have to go $30 on meat. So it'll give me like 4 days of meat. It'll give me a couple of bags of chips, because that's what, I like my chips and sausages and whatever, right? So $50 of that, probably $40, half of that will go on meat. Then there was milk, $5 for milk, 2-liter milk. I don't eat bread, because when I was a kid, I went to boarding school, and all we had was freaking bread 3 times a day almost. And I was like, yeah. And now if I eat bread, right, it has to be special bread. It has to be like Raywana. It has to be like croissant. It just can't be like bread, right? Yeah. So you go. Yeah. So I spent $100 for 3 days for food, right? So if we're going $100, right? That's $168 New Zealand. That will get me about 2 weeks worth of, around 2 weeks worth of groceries. Because I'm the only one who shops, because I'm just, I'm divorced. I live by myself. I love my life, just doing what I want. And so I just have to feed myself. And I'll basically go and cook 3 days worth of meals or 2 days worth of meals. And I'll just go and, Mom, the other thing is, like, even that, right? I will, I'll grab a leg of lamb like I did a couple of weeks ago and take it to my sister's, because I don't want to chop that leg up to cook for myself. And plus, I don't have a big enough, I have one of those little tiny oven apartment grills, so I don't want to like chop the meat up to make it, food in it. So I just said to my sister, I said, hey, I got a leg of lamb. Let's go have, I'll come up, let's cook it as a roast. I don't want anything else out of it. I need a roast. So we had fed the whole, what was like, it was $24 for the leg of lamb. I'm not sure how much it is over there, George, but like, yeah, $50 really can't buy much. So, yeah. Yeah, you can only hope is Aldi and thing. Yeah. And here's the other thing. You guys get A grade meat from New Zealand. We kind of get like the B and C grade, because all our top quality goes overseas. However, we pay more for our own meat than you guys would pay in your country for our meat. And it's been like that for at least about 2-3 decades. And it's been like always been a point of contention for us in New Zealand, because of the way, they get more money, and we have to pay the, the what is called differentiation, like the tariff. Like we're the ones who, as Kiwi customers, we're paying for the tariff that everybody else is getting cheaper for. So yeah, so if you're doing business in comics and hiring people, understand that there are people in other countries who are willing to pay and work for that $15 a page, even if you, as an American, UK, Australia, New Zealand, wouldn't even touch it. There are other people elsewhere who will, because in their own country, that $15 US could be 3 times an hour's worth of work, or even 4. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because that's what was happening on a group page, because a guy offered $15 American on a group international, not just an American page. And this is what I think a lot of Americans don't understand. The world exists outside of America. Some people don't understand it, but right. But to my dear comic creators in America and UK and US and Europe, majority white countries, right? Understand that in other countries, your dollar could be there $5 or $10. And so when you're on these group pages, especially comic book ones, don't look down on other people from other countries offering what you consider to be like peanuts, because there might be a countryman there saying, man, you're paying me $5 more. Like, I'm getting $5 more than, the other guy. I'll take that. Or what, $15 US, because that's 3 hours worth of work. I'm going to take that. And there are other people who were taking that. The sad thing is that watching people that I knew ignorant of that was like the worst thing. I don't even think I commented on it, because I was like, I'm going to open up I'd rather like talk like this about it than to open up like a whole bee's nest of things, right? Because, oh, how dare you say, like, is that how you treat people? So no, I understand the economics of the world. I understand that in Fiji, my money is $1.30. So if I take $1 to Fiji, I'll get $1.30 back to spend. Like 10 years ago, I felt like a king in Fiji because my dollar became $1.50, right? 1.5 times what was value here. So I could get a jug of beer, right, or even one of these for $1, where I would be paying about $5 here. And this is not beer, by the way. This is just like I think it was an energy drink with Sprite lemonade. And so, and I think that's the problem with like international ignorance, right? I think especially in comics. And I hope people, if you get, hopefully people, I'll clip this and we'll just do this. And hopefully people watch the video and get understanding what I'm trying to say here is that just because you live in an high-paying, high economic situation where you live, here's the thing. When you live in a shanty and you're an artist, and excuse me, and you see a person living in an apartment, that looks like a mansion to you, right? And that's the same thing when it comes to being an artist and getting $60 an hour, which could equate to that guy living in a shanty whole week's worth of wages, or sometimes maybe even a month's worth of wage, or a couple of weeks. And there are people in that country who are happy to take that guy's $15 and will like thank them and be so grateful for that, because they're getting a higher rate than some other countryman that's getting paid by somebody else. That is not to demean their work, and that is not to look down on that person in that country. It's just the state of the fact. It's just that's how there's places in the world where it's so poor that $15 US, could be a week's worth of wage or a day's worth of wage. Like I said earlier, like about the Fiji, right? When I was there 10 years ago, 2014, right? A T-shirt is $2 in Fiji, right? Brand new. And if you could haggle for 2 T-shirts down to $3. And I never haggle over items in Fiji. Never. I just don't. I know family members who do. I just won't, because I know that why the hell would I haggle for something that I already know is cheap for the value, right? Because that's even making it worse. Is it like, oh, now you're trying to be even worse than who you are? It's for them. You're like, oh, you have the money, and you don't even want to like pay them what they put the price tag, because the economy says that the way the country's run, so you're allowed to haggle. And some places they want to haggle. And I'm like, I'm not going to haggle you over $2 T-shirts, And I think sometimes Westerners, and like, because I come from Fiji, I understand I have members in Fiji, but also because I deal with international artists, writers, creators, publishers, printers, you know, and local ones, right? It kind of gives me a bigger worldview. But not only that, I watch a lot of stuff, documentaries about these things, and I take that on board. So when I'm like, when somebody says, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking," I'm like, I understand. I'm grateful. I understand, and I will try to do better, right? And not try to like, oh, well, let's haggle the price, or you know, this is what I can afford, right? This is what I can afford, and if you don't want to work with me on that, that's okay. But that's what I can afford. And it's the same thing, you know, back to that guy offering $15. That's all he could probably afford to get his comic book made. But because all these American people turned on him and sort of like, oh, you're bad offering that much. Who would it? There was people in there going, hey man, yeah, here's my DM. I'm gonna send you a DM. Please look at my work. Let me know. From all over the world, you know. And this is you know, as you can see, look at the. Are you guys watching the rate here? What is happening with that? Is that changing on me? Yeah, look. Not sure what that's going on, but like, you know, let me just do a thing. Reboot that. I mean, refresh that. Because this is actually a live conversion. Like, you know. So yeah, it's like 1.6, $1 US is $1.6 to New Zealand, right? So yeah, I just hope that people and Western comic community understand that there is a build out there of comic creators, and they have been there for a while, who have been working for US companies, who are very grateful to be working for US companies because they have a better, you know, a better life because of that rate that they're getting offered. They're able to actually do better for their whole family because of that, you know, of the rate. I mean, because of the exchange rate, working in US dollars back to their own home. And, you know, for that $15, that could feed that guy for a whole day, for all we know, depending where that guy lives, right? And so thinking like, you know, he's trying to rip people off, he isn't, right? So if he's offering $15, right, you know, to a, let's get there, you know, he's basically offering an hour's worth of, you know, an hour's wage. Hey, George, you know, Nathaniel, how much is like an hourly minimum wage in America right now? Because if I remember right, it was like $15 or something. So it's $15 American. Let's go to like say Africa, right? Now let's go to Philippines. Philippines seems to be, you know, there's a lot of pretty cool artists over in Philippines, right? So I think Philippines is pesos. I was looking at it before. Yeah. So look at that. Does that number make sense to you guys? So $15 to 858 pesos. So let's go to New Zealand, because that'll make more sense to me. If I go $15, right? So look at that, 500. Yeah, this is something. Yeah, so this is yeah, so $15. Thanks, George. So it's $15. Why doesn't that come up? There we go. So yeah, $15 is an hour's rate, which basically, like I said, like for New Zealand, you know, equates about right, right? So that's only 15. Sorry, go that way. So it's $25. So it's a minimum wage, right? So it's $15 US, $25 New Zealand. Say you're a guy in Philippines who can do 2 pages in an hour. That's $30, and he's already done his whole day's worth of work. Right? So if we go to pesos, you know, because that's minimum wage is around about 25, 21, 25 for New Zealand, right? Look at that. Federal minimum wage is $7.25, half of that. So if you're offering $7 to a guy who's in the Philippines and American money is worth more, he's going to be happy that you're giving him $15 an hour, right? That's $25 New Zealand, right? And I think Western well-off, and I'm not saying well-off in the sense of like, hey, you're rich. No, well-off in the sense of that you're actually living a good life. You're living in a place you have electricity all day long, Wi-Fi all day long, water is going to come with a tap. You can go out and buy food and it's not going out, right? It's there on the shelf every time, right? It's not, it's not sort of like, it's not, it's not like an Cuba where there's like empty grocery stores, right? And you're getting paid $15 an hour, you're going to be so happy. You're like, I hit the jackpot, because the reason I mentioned $15 is what was a contention. And you're going to be very happy that you're able to go take your American dollars from your PayPal and swap it over into your own country's thing. And there it is now. Like for me, like $50 New Zealand is like 80 no, sorry, I think it was $50 Mexican. American was $80, $83 Mexican pesos, whatever it was. So yeah, so a lot of, George says, a lot of cartoonists are upset because a lot of work is being outsourced. But from an economic standpoint, you would need to in order to cut costs but generate quality products. That's why Marvel and DC is working with people over freaking Philippines or Indonesia, right? That's where they got into trouble with that guy who put in some, I think it might have been for Indonesia, who put in some, who was promoting some like Islamic terrorist imagery or things to do with that in the Marvel comic book, and they had to destroy that whole comic that had already gone out and had to get people to bring it in. Nathaniel says most states have set it at 15. Yeah, so not everybody's doing it 15, right? I mean, like I mentioned, when I was 16, 17, and I was working warehouse, I was getting $6.90 an hour as a teenager, like about 18 or 19. I think it was like 18 or 19. So if you look at that, right? Let's switch that around. So and this is like about 34 years ago, 35 years ago. So $6, I should say, not 16. It was $6.90 an hour is what I was getting paid. $4 an hour in 91, 92. And I was there for 3 years. That's what it went to. I was getting $4, $3 an hour. So yeah, it's, with this whole, people not understanding the rights and stuff, and it's just kind of sad, right? Yeah, hey Rexillian, how you doing, mate? I think there are two sides of the coin in this. It would be frustrating to have a craft and offered at a fair market rate only to be undercut by cheap labor from development. Exactly. I 100% agree with that as well. That's not a contention for me as well. But at the end of the day, it's what, it's this one here, right? But from an economic standpoint, Joe says, you would need to, right, in order to cut costs but generate quality products. And at the end of the day, indie comics, you can't afford to pay, say, what was it like recently with trying to get Jim Lee, right? Jim Lee goes, I charge $35. That's $35,000 US, right? And yeah, $4, and that's basically more than 96, right? You're making $4 an hour, right? And you look, and now you look back and you go, you're getting $20, you're getting $15, dude. What? I'd be working. And I said it to my niece, right? And one of my artist friends, I said, who works, right, full time. And I said, dude, I if I could wake up in the morning and have no pain, no health issues, and just be able to just have everything working, I'd be out there working right now because I'll be so friggin' happy for that $25 an hour, because that means that I could just pour that back into the comics, which is what I've done all the time. I've been, my whole life has been like, okay, I'm going to work and I'm going to put that into my art for the last few years. And but I understand also, like, what Rex was saying, right? Rex was saying that when it comes down to wanting quality work, you can, you can't, you can't hire a Jim Lee or a Todd McFarlane, even though, if you get their name on your book, you could make 1,000% markup on that just because of the name, right? And but say if you're starting out and you're in a country like Philippines and you've come up with a great idea and you reach out to your fellow countrymen and they go, well, I'm going to charge you this much. And then you put that book out and then somebody finds out that's how much that guy worked on that for. And now you got, and here, I'm picking on Americans here because I find that they're the most vocals when it comes to this sort of stuff. And I've noticed this online because in a sense, and not to say like I'm using the word ignorance as kind of like that they're unintelligent or anything, just ignorance of the fact that there's other people around the world that they can do same quality of work but get paid less in the balance of things when it comes to American dollar, right? So you could get somebody who can do Jim Lee quality work over in Philippines and pay them $100, but because he's not known, even though, and this is 100% on the ball, right? His work is probably way better than Jim Lee. It far surpasses Jim Lee any day. Yet, because he's not known, doesn't have a history, right? His work is not worth anything to an American audience or to the comic book audience, right? It's like me holding up, like, let's say, like James Hill's work, right? And let me just show you what I mean by that, because I think James Hill's like freaking brilliant. He's one of my artists, right? He's done quite a few pieces for me. One of our comics that's coming up, the cover for that is, where are you? That we're going to be putting out on Indiegogo soon. Where are you, buddy? Right. For me, like, it's right up there. I reckon, James' work here is like freaking awesome, right? But so let's have a look. We did a full page. I can get to it. So this is James' work, right? So this is a cover for Incritical, the character behind me, right? This is her new clothing. This is what she looks like now. Her costume, right? And the colors on here is done by colorist Hugo Quino, right? I did the flats and he did the colors on that. So this is what we're going to be releasing on Indiegogo soon. So, but the cover we had released for the Kickstarter last year was from the interior artist. This one we just made it like a new thing for Indiegogo, because we got issue 2 coming up soon. We're working on that now, and so once that's ready, we'll release that as well. So, guess what? Like, I don't know how because people got artist objective, right? And even so more when it comes to comic book art, right? You go, oh yeah, well, that's not Jim Lee. Oh, it's not Todd McFarlane. Oh, it's not such and such, and so it's no value to that. But how do you can say, well, it's any less value, right? And what it comes down to, it just comes down to names, right? It really comes down to name brand. It comes to name recognition. You know, you can go, oh yeah, no, this is this, this and that, and you go, because that person is involved with it. But yeah, and I think at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. It's like it's name brand. You know, yeah, $600 for a single. George says, Chuck Patton charges $600. Don't even know who Chuck Patton is, man. But he's charging $600 for single character pencils for a page, and the price goes up per character, background and inks. He's truly an amazing artist, but that can hit the budget. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, right? Cheers, dude. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why I thought I'll read. I like the like it was a poster we had done as a poster, and I thought, you know, it'd be cool if we just did it as a cover as well, like offer as a second time around kind of thing. Because I thought that was a really cool cover, and I designed the setting for the cover myself, and then he went and like drew it up. And so yeah, I mean, you know, getting back to this, it's like but you could basically find someone who doesn't have the name recognition elsewhere, outside of America, outside of Europe, outside of Australia, New Zealand, who could do just as well, right? And just as high quality finishes and everything for, you know, for a pittance of that. $60. He would do the colors, he would do the inks, he'd do the pencils. And then because he's doing that, now you'll get somebody, you know, who's paying $100 just for inking or pencils, basically looking down on that work because just because it's not worth it, because he didn't get paid that much, you know. And I think that's the yeah, exactly, because he's he's an art director because he's worked on an animated show, because he's got, you know, he's worked on DC artists. Like, thanks for letting me know, by the way, George, who Chuck Patton is. Because of all that, because he's got that DC label on him, and he's got the Spawn label, and he's got TNT label, because of all that, his value has gone up, right? It's like me, like, see, if I was charging myself out, right, to someone, I just go on $50 US. That's what I've been saying. When I first, like 5 years ago, when I was first saying it, it's like, oh, it's $35 US, right? But I never charge that to anybody because I work for myself. But if I am doing that, and here's the thing, I did charge myself to that one time because I had to do a team. I put together a team to go and do a 2-day convention, right? And that's how I basically had to go in and go, this is what my value is. This is what you're going to get out of me. This is my experience in this. This is what I'll be giving you. And while I was there, I was like zoned. I was managing a team of 12 people, volunteers. I was managing like about another 5 people. And then I was also judging like not judging, but administrating the cosplay. And not only that, I was watching, you know, the artist alley. Not only that, I was watching the making sure that all the, like, every stall and everybody was okay. And because that's how I was charging myself, right? Because I knew that when I'm going to work for that person for those 2 days, and not only that, I had to put the team together, do the admin, do their payroll, do their rates, do where we're sleeping, hire out the place we're sleeping, provide extra food, like bonuses, like beverages, you know, and all that. I didn't do myself at $50 an hour US, or $50 New Zealand, sorry, so it was about 35, you know, which is time and a half, really, if you really think about it. But and then also the travel and everything else, but that's what I went for. And like I said, I can put myself out at that. But if I go and work for someone, I'm not going to go hourly rate. I'm going to go, this is what you're going to get for me, right? So at the moment, I'm mentoring a guy, you know, and I'm not getting paid a cent, but I'm mentoring a person for an hour, you know, on a video chat. And then offline, I'm just like messages back and forth, because he's working for us, right? He's working for RSC, and I can say, hey, look, I like this work. Let's work with it. Let's make this work happen. However, just off the cuff, like, nobody really knows what I do because they don't know what my experiences are until I say it, right? So this is the other thing when it comes down to it. Unless you have someone with this sort of setup, right? You have someone who's got brand recognition. There is no value to, like, say Chuck was just doing amazing work out there, and he wasn't working for like DC or Spawn or that. He'll be just like charging what, $50. He'll be just doing whatever somebody wants to pay him. And this is the other side of the thing I should mention, right? To the many people around the world, your work is only valued to what somebody can afford to pay you. Many people will be happy to pay, who have the money, to get an out and out that 35K Jim Lee image, whatever, right, of their own character, because they have the money for that, or they can get the money together. Now, if I was doing that and I had the money together and I was like a millionaire, because that's the only reason why I would actually hire someone like that to do work for me on a cover, because why else? Why would I spend $35 if I'm not going to get like 10 times that back, right? And that's how you got to look at things. Like, am I going to get at least 10 times back of what I'm putting out of value for that? And maybe you'll never get a cent back. You can put out a great piece of work and you'll never get anything back, but you're still doing it because you love it. So let's say I pay, I'm a millionaire. I pay, I pay, what's his name? Jim Lee, 35K for his, for IncrediGirl cover, right? But I can pay that $35K for maybe about 5-10 comics to an artist somewhere to do a complete issue. Get 35K to pay for entire 6 issues, right? And this is how I think the whole idea of budgeting and all that. A lot of people don't know budgeting, who are in the indie sphere, or don't know the exchange rates and don't know how, a lot of that. And so if I'm paying $35, 35K to Jim Lee to do that, I expect to get at least 350K back, if not 350K back. Because what I would do is I'd put that on a t-shirt, I'd put it on a poster, I'd put it on a comic book, I'd put it on a card, I would put like a hat, I would put on everything. That's why you get a single image of Deadpool on so many things. That same, and I've got a t-shirt and I've got a hoodie with the same image of Deadpool on it. It's funny. I didn't even recognize that I had the same image on a t-shirt and a hoodie. And I was like, and this is like about 5 years after having bought it. I was like, wait, that's the same freaking image. And that's why somebody would friggin' pay somebody 35K for an image, or 10K or 5K, because it's a mass merchandising of that item, right? It's the same thing like with if you guys remember, like with this with the whole Comicsgate thing with EVS, who did a cover for because there was a contention, right? There was, for a while, there was a huge contention for Eric July, right? And his cover made $100,000 of whatever he offered for that. Like, and EVS was saying like about 4K or something for his work, because people bought that because it had EVS. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was Eric July. It was because EVS did the cover, because he bought his brand recognition of himself. He is the brand. It's like me. I'm the brand of Plunge Comics, right? And my friend was like on my case about this. Like, dude, you are the representation of Plunge Convention. So how you behave online is how people would think that this is what this is about. I'm like, yeah, but that is that thing, and I'm this thing, and I do a lot of things. And say, yeah, but people don't see that, right? However, one thing I should say, this is a good place where I'll show you what happened this week with one of my art pieces, right? And you guys watched me like the last couple of months, like if you following me through, or sort of posts on social media on Facebook, you would have seen that following watch list. I think that was one there. think it should be gone by now. Yeah, I think it's gone, but lost. I think it's under lost. I'm just trying to find this this image, this auction for one of my art pieces that was sold. Oh, here we go. And you'll see what I mean, like how the value and subjection of what people are willing to pay for whatever, right? So doing, so this, right? So if it, as you can, it's got my name on there, right? It's got my artist name on there as well, Malfunction, right? And so this is my work. If you would have seen me do, you know, apart from putting the clear glaze on it, which just gives you the shine on here and all over, everything I did myself, hand built, painted, everything myself. So it's about that big, you know, you would have seen the photos. But look at this. That was the highest bid. Right? And they were shipped for $10. I don't know who bought it, where it went to, and stuff. But that took me for about on and off, maybe about 15 hours to do. But and I'm not, and I mean 15 hours because that's how much time I was online chatting and all that. But let's say it could have taken me about 2-3 hours to do. It only sold for $48 because that's what somebody was willing to pay for it, right? I missed one. So Jim Lee is a special case study, like you said. He is one of the few comic artists out there that people will go out. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's because he's so recognized. I have a hoodie, a Jim Lee hoodie. I paid $55 for because it was on sale from $160, right? Because I was like, I'm not going to pay $160 for a hoodie. It's just stupid. Yeah, but 50, okay. You know, and it's like one of those zip up ones. It's got his name on here, Jim Lee, on the back. It's like the DC logo with Batman on it. And that's why I bought it, because it was Batman on it. But there were many people like that as well, right? I mean, people will go and buy a Todd McFarlane cover because it's just Dick McFarlane. They'll go and buy a Frank Miller cover because it's just Frank Miller. And I'm just saying, I'll go and buy back in the day, I used to go and buy an Alex Ross cover, right? This is like the 2000s, and then wear like everything at Alex Ross cover. And the same thing with like what's his name, Young, Justin Young. I can't remember. Like the one who does the I can't remember his first name, but like Young, right? Something Young. Art, like he does like the Scotty Young. There we go. Thank you, Rexillian. Yeah, he does. You know, I buy a whole bunch of his covers, and then it's like it was all like on everything. I was like, it's no point. It's like Funko, right? I was like, this is like getting overboard. It's like everything's Funko. It's like freaking Seinfeld's Funko. It's like Friends is Funko. It's like there's no point to it now. And so I've got all my I've got my DC characters. I've got I think the last one I decided to get was with Funko was Blade Runner, and I think there was like I think it was like a Megadeth and an Iron Maiden one, Somewhere in Time album cover. Those were the last ones I wanted to get. I was like, that's it. I think this is it, because it's like everything's Funko, so there's no value to it anymore because it's over saturation. The same thing with Scotty's. Like I saw a couple of Scotty's cover recently, right? And I was like, yeah, no, there's no value to Scotty Young's cover, right, anymore, because he's on everything. And that's what happens when you like oversaturate the market. The value of your brand, there will still be people who buy it, right? Right? There'll still be people who would go and get it. Why isn't that coming up? I'm looking at it, trying to see if I can get his one come up on this. He's on comic page, but it's not coming up. Am I spelling it wrong? No, let's just try Young. So I can show you what the most recent one is. All right, Scott Young. Let me put this on the screen so you guys can see that as well, what I'm looking at here. All right, so this is the most recent. Here we go. So here we go. Right, so this is a cute little Black Panther cover, right, for Scotty, right? And this is Bloodhound. I think it's one of the most recent ones. So it's not, you know, back in the day, it'll pop off, right? Then there was like the Funko covers. You know, you could get like drawn covers. I mean, like, you know, not like photos of the Funko, but like actual drawn covers, and they'll be worth something as well. You know, so people get the variant, Scotty Young variant, and so on. And then after a while, yeah, he's just another artist, just like what happened with Alex Ross, right? Saturated the market to a point where like there's not any value to collect it because hey, it's cool, but that's all it is. It's just cool. Look, it's just a friggin' drawing on a white background, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But you know, it was just like it's like he's just doing a doodle now, or any character. There's no sort of, you know, and maybe it's not a doodle for him, right? Maybe it takes ages for him to draw that because that's his art style. It's just like the same thing, like, you know, like anybody who's got their character down pat, it doesn't take them that long to draw. But if you're a new person coming to that and drawing in the style of, you know, it takes a bit longer. And that's also the other thing about comic art, right? You could have someone whose skills are so good to a point because of their years of dedication to it, they can just within minutes, and someone's there going, crap, I've got to learn. Yeah. All right, that's going an hour, half an hour. Oh no, it's going to take me a day to do that, mate. Sorry. How do you charge for that? All right. That's why, like I said to my nephew when I handed him my digital tablet, I said, I want you to, you know, don't make the digital tablet your 100% everything you do on that, because you know, someday somebody's going to come up to go, hey, can you draw a character? And if you can't draw it by hand, what's it? You know, how can they, like, because they would want to walk away with something from you, and if you can't, unless you have it printed there, if they commission you, I basically go to some people. Like one of my friends once said to me, like, everybody keeps asking me for work, but I just don't have the time to do it. So we'll just say I don't do commissions. That's it. Just go ahead and do commissions. And that's simplified. Even outside of the collector's aspect and value and whatnot, him being on every alt cover was boring. I love his art, but yeah, 100%, man. That's what happened with Alex Ross in 2000s, right? Within like 5 years, he was on everything, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I want Alex Ross cover anymore. It's like, it's just might as well just go back to somebody like who's, you know, regular. And because I'm an art collector as well, I like collect comics just for the cover art, right? Because like after a while, it's just like these stories are regurgitated stories. They're nothing new to them. It's just like another world destroying things happening, another crossover. It's like, well, might as well just buy comics for the art, for the cover, right? And then if there's something specific I want to read that's actually decent, then I'll buy it for the comic book. But apart from that, I'll just buy it for the cover. And I think, yeah, you know, like I said, like it's once it gets oversaturated, it's like doesn't make it special anymore. Now, some updates, right? Let's get to some comic updates, because you know that's something I should also do as we finish here. I mean, that part, you know, part of the AI, you know, killing, you know, the whale thing and all that, poisoning the whale, right? And both aspects of that, right? We looked at like how you can drive people to the AI and how AI can drive, you know, destroy the comic industry if people, you know, don't make up their mind between the difference. So this character here is one of our characters from Zoolandia, Fantastical Romy, right? This is the first story arc, which might end up being 5. I'm not sure. Of just editing and working on the second issue. So each comic book is going to have like about 40 pages. 30 pages will be an actual story arc, and there might be like a couple pages of like backup story as well. So you're getting more than 30 pages of comic. So this is characters from it. So this is Romy here. I had some headshots done up by an amazing artist on this. This is Joachim Hagström from Sweden. And so this is Dramzel. He is a dragonoid, which means he can turn from a dragon into a human, and he's huge as a dragon. And this is Romy. our young little New Zealand Kiwi girl. And this is, we got like me and, and there's the hair colors, right? It's supposed to be purple. This is Romalina, right? So these are headshots of our main 3 characters. Let me pop up to some, go back to Templeton, and we had some like artwork, like 5.7 gigs worth of artwork dumped this week, today, overnight, yesterday. So I want to go through some of the artwork, show you some of the amazing work there. Don't want to give too much away, but I do want to, show you guys some of the work we're doing there. And, I'm just so excited for this because this is first issue, right? So that means the first issue is completely done now. All the artwork is done for first issue. So I'm going to show some work, and I'm going to show you others because I don't want you guys, getting everything, spoiled for you. So check out the work on this, man. This is like penciled and inked by Eva Kim Hagstrom. This is the scans. This is before the actual final inks. This is just like, because I've got the completed works. This is just like, hidden, as you can see, going over it with a felt pen, and later he'll take it to scan it, and then he'll re-ink it, clean it up and stuff, which is we've already done. So this is little Romy here, as a kid. I think she's about 7 or 12 here. Then the whole this world's the Zealandia's world's Harry Potter thing, and life, parents, like the work on this is brilliant. I love, like I said, I'm just so like I love working with my artists. Like this is a great thing about working with humans, not friggin' AI shit. It's like, or prompters, it's that brings so much life into the, into each aspect of the panel, like this one really made me like get tearful. Yeah, I still feel like I'm getting tearful now. Like just that, when I was writing this and I was just, creating, writing the description of a panel and stuff, I was like, oh man, because like even without any text, right? Because this page is going to have text, but like without any speech bubbles or anything, you can see this is like an emotional piece, right? And it's just, yeah. So this is our comic book called Zealandia, Fantastical Romy, which is like, it's an ongoing series, Zealandia, but Fantastical Romy is the first story arc, and so we gave it her own title, right? So characters and stuff that are in here. I'm not going to give you, every page, but I want to show you some really cool stuff, And you got the dragon I was showing you earlier, because this is the story about this, right? Is it's a isekai fantasy story about a young girl who finds herself in a fantastical world, and so upon arriving, she into this crazy place, she meets a dragon, and then then it goes on. So she's got to try to find herself home. That's the story. It's like trying to find a way home. So it's a cross between a standard isekai story plus, in our world of Zealandia, people can come in there from whatever age group, timeline of human Earth, right? And this is a version of New Zealand. So it's like it's an alternate version of fantastical, fantasy sword and sorcery world of version of New Zealand. And so it's everything, where things are placed. It's like places here, but renamed and everything. So like you have like the dwarf speak German, right? And so you got names, places of names that's written in German and stuff like that. There's humans there. There's beastmen, so you like bunny girls or warriors. You have mermaids and fairies, elves, a whole bunch of really cool characters and stuff. And so with with the first issue done, basically we're now this week I should have the second issue edited, like 30, 35 pages or whatever of script edited, and then that'll get over to, send over to Ewakim, and he'll begin that. But we're not releasing the first issue until we're set or halfway through the second issue of the work being done. The reason for that is because I want to get a good timeline. So, hey, every so many months, 6, 8 months, whatever, we'll put the next one out, because we're building an original, work of art, of fiction, of fantasy. So everything has to be correct, right? Everything has to work together, because like there's so many behind the scenes stuff that goes on, that I want to be able to make sure that all that is worked out really well before we put it out, because it's like at the moment there's like hundreds of pages of friggin' text that I put together to make sure that we have each character. What is that character's reason for being? What is that species reasons for being? Why are the friggin' mermaids doing that? And why were the orcs doing that? Why are the what's the magic aspect of that? What is, how does the mana work in this? Like, what are each levels? And so I got to work all that out from scratch. So it's just why it's taking a bit long, to get it out there. But I think the other thing of this is like, because we have a website for that, right? We have so many things that I've got set up for this, that we have actually for Zealandia. We have a friggin' website for Zealandia. We have let me bring it up. Yeah. Where we're going to put, that's where the headshot's going to go. We have an Instagram. How long is it going to take you to get onto that page? Yeah, so we've got a Orlando page, I think it is. Let me just make sure that's coming up. Hello? Oh, I think it's under Wix, right? That's what it is. It's come up under Orlando Wix. Give me one sec. Probably easy to get there from by. Oh, yeah, here's the other thing about that, right? So we actually have a Facebook page, we have a Instagram page, we have a Twitter page for Zealandia, and of course the Insta. Like, did I just mention Instagram? And so because of that, like, because I want, this is one of our, like, one of my main, where's your home? Home. Right. So this is the Facebook page for Zealandia, where I put up some work every now and then. So check it in the chat. And so we're going to, we share the artwork and stuff that's coming up. And I mean, that's been done in time, every now and then. And this is one of our key standalone. There you are. I was just looking at which page I was on. Like, I've got so many windows open. Here we go. So, it's it's just part of everything else we're doing. So you can see like stuff I'm putting up here, the map, redoing the map, because I realized that like it was a bit too small. You could walk somewhere in like a couple hours, or like, yeah, that's not going to work if you're doing, if you're setting up armies to get to places. And also like coming up with like, these are like images that actually exist in real places, and how I'm going to work them into my story and how to redesign it all. So you get a whole lot, like ground floor, creation of this comic book. If you're following this page, right, you'll see how, like, you're gonna it will share photos and go, okay, this is when you see the final pieces will be, these are like reference pieces that I'm sending over to my artist, right, and stuff. So you end up like, this is Whangarei, right? So this is where I live right now, over here somewhere. And so this is our little mountain that we have called over that way, Mount Parihaki, and done like this. And so you got daytime, and when it looks like at night, all done up as light. And so you get all the, working on different aspects of it that you'll see in the story. And so we just, how much we've got so far. So it's like 27 pages. So that was in July, right? So, and of course we share the other stuff we're doing. But here's a promo page that we have in one of our comics going out. So this is Romalina here, and this is, of course, that's Dramzel, and just like breaking up, and tells you a bit about what this world is. And also I showed you that other, this one earlier with the image. And so, this is the text on that. and of course the actual, you know, early designs of the character. So you see here, so she's got like this long hat. And I decided like I don't want, she looked too witchy in that. I don't want to like give that negative aspect to her. So we just I said, oh, why don't we just go with like a cowboy kind of hat rather than that, but a more wider rim. And so we went with that. So she doesn't look like a witch, right? So she looks more like, you know, a setback page. So this is, of course, Eva Kim did a cover for Robot Nation. And just like, you know, talking about like how, you know, how magic works, practitioners, we actually, now I actually changed the word from G to a J. So it's totally different, you know, magic instead of magic. It's kind of, I think it's Hindi, magic. And so this is the early, you know, designs of the character here for Romy and Romalina, right? And just the way they look like. And then you've got also like elves and stuff. I should just put it higher there. Yeah, so here you go. So early prelim designs of the characters. And also, you know, designing the logo. Let's get back here. So one of the first things I did was like, you know, whenever I like come up with an idea, I'll go and find a name for it, you know, and then I go and design, you know, and then while I'm writing it, I'll go back and design the logo for it. And so, you know, this was, yeah. So this was like, it was Fantastical Romy, and then of course Zealandia. You know, and there's another character I've got coming up. It's kind of like a barbarian character. It's called Captain Yorstrook. And, you know, just saying, how old is he? What's his thing? What's his skin color? What sort of type is he? You know, is a mercenary, morals, a rogue with high morality, warrior type, you know, what's his hair color? You know, he's a blonde with a blood red streaks in it, stuff like that. He's a demi-human mixed beastman and demon heritage, and so on. You know, weapons, what does he carry? He's got large broadswords and, you know, and a small 40-inch dragon. What do you like about that big? So it's got big, huge, you know, swords and stuff. You know, and also there's this other one here. Like, I mean, the whole aim of that one day is to, you know, build a board game around this world. And so I'm just, you know, showing like how much, you know, this is like now there's like about 20, 30, 40 different friggin' files in each folder now because it's gotten so big. And of course, the original design of the, and there's a reason why it's like this, like there's 3 there, right? And you'll find it out in the comic book, but I don't mind saying it now, right? The reason that's there is like this world has its own religion, right? And it's called the Tri-Face God, is the God they believe in. And so it's like, you know, it's kind of like the statue that they actually, you know, have to represent, or the idol. It's like in some place it'll be like a male and like a parents, it'll be male and female, and then it'll be a male as a child. Or in other places they'll worship, it'll be a female. Sorry, it'll be a male, right? So it's like it's either male or female, depending what area of the country it is and what species they are. So that's why it's kind of like this whole thing with the logo and Zealandia with the 3 everything, you know, 3 down, 3 across with a name. You know, as you can, let me just say, this is what I mean. It's like 3 across, 3 down, and all this. So it's everything's got to do with 3 with this. And so that was kind of like just kind of like doing something different instead of aspect. I think this was, yeah. So this is one of the early maps. But like now there's a whole lot of different smaller. Like I did a new map where it's just got a whole lot of stuff just around here, northern area. But yeah, so that is Zealandia, and hopefully, you know, we'll be able to share more images and more color images. And right now, Ilkim's actually doing a, for the issue 1, right? He's doing a wraparound cover, which we're going to release as a #1 cover. So it's the A cover will be a wraparound cover, which means, and then later on, we'll be releasing that as a chrome cover because I want to like release that same cover in a really cool variant wraparound chrome. It'll be look really cool. And yeah, so that is all for me today. I didn't get much art done, right? But I think, you know, we got a lot of things covered, and I did not expect to speak for 3.5 hours. Oh, yeah, I was going like half an hour and half an hour on those 2 subjects. But thank you for joining me. And so wherever you are, be well. Have an awesome day, night, evening, morning, wherever, whatever your time is in where you are right now. And we'll catch you in the next one. Next one coming up is a really sad one on this channel with with Plungecast, because Plungecast is a bit more like commentary channel, an interview channel, whereas like Plunge Comics will become a more about our studio and what we are putting out. So that way, we can differentiate between the two. So one of the things that like is coming up for the next subject is this one here, man. It's like it is really sad. It's like something I think, I've watched a few videos on it, and it's just broke my heart. And I think there's a lot of this going on as well in different aspects. So we'll be talking about this next time. I'm not sure. I'm supposed to be like, I've got it in 2 days, but I'll see how well I am, see how that goes. But Ziyang, like 10 million subscribers. That's that's pretty huge, right? And yeah, so if you pop over to that, you can see what that's about. But do check that out. I mean, when we do hit the notify button, it's there, and you'll be able to be notified when I go live, right? So if you see on here, like that is the notify, that's where you hit the notify, and whenever when I'm about to go, they give you like a half an hour notification. Hey, about to go live. And so yeah, hopefully, please go. Please, hit that notify button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed here before. And if you're first time, please share, like, and all that. But yeah, this video, part 2 of the video, came up first that this lady had done, and Gum Hill, and I was like, holy hell, we got to talk about this. And not only that, we're going to go into a lot of other things to do with YouTube culture that's like really weird and really sad, and some pretty disgusting. And it'll be really, it'd be worthwhile to have a look at if that's, hopefully, it's worthwhile. But yeah, there were some things I just couldn't watch as part of that. It was like, yeah. So I'll be skipping some of that, some of the stuff, but hopefully, we'll get into it and learn about the seedier side of being a celeb influencer, and sadly, how people take advantages of you and how they use you. And this is a case study in someone who's like the most famous of people in that, from Korea, and like not just 10 million, that's like bigger than Mr. Beast, all that, right? Like, yeah. So please check that out when we go live, and we'll see you next time. Ka kite ano, be well, and catch you later. Thank you for everybody that jumped in, Roxillian, George, and Nathaniel. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for jumping in, and also Nobi will come in earlier. We have, hopefully, you got something out of it today. Catch you next time.